you're just too scared to be lonely. No one's safe from the reaper, not a saint nor a sinner. Rage under my skin, slowly descend into madness. Let it spread like a virus.
That's George.
An open book.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Right, good.
Everybody
good
knows
shit.
I don't have to hide. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, so welcome back to Chicago Grit. On this show, we talk about the unfair advantages of life. We talk about the worst things that's happened to us, the trauma, the loss, the bullets, and how those things can actually become the source of our greatest perspective and our greatest strengths. Our first guest, George Alfaro, he laid the blueprint and nominated today's guest, telling us that this man's story should be etched in books forever. Right. Today we have Angelo Perez here in person. Now, so my own kids call this guy the Daredevil, you know, and they said, which Angelo are you talking to? You know, there's the pitcher and then there's the Daredevil now, you know, and it's for a good reason, right? So since October, he's completed marathon. He's jumped out of a plane. He's been scuba diving in Mexico, you know, and that's just scratching the surface, really, you know, but that relentlessness wasn't born in a gym. You know, before he was an athlete, he was a survivor of 1990 Chicago, you know, gang member, a man who fought decades life war with addiction, with own mental battles. He calls it his second life. You know, I call it ultimate proof that, you know, your past doesn't define your future. Like that's what fuels it. So welcome, Angelo. Thank you.
All right.
Just let's start with the last few months because you've been on a tear. You know, so most people slow down in their 50s. You know, you seem to be speeding up. Like, are you making up for lost time?
No, I think that I've always been somebody who likes to push the edge a little bit in life. Mm-hmm. At an early age, I think I crawled out of my crib and tried to escape and fell off the dresser and broke my arm. So I like to try new things. That's a joke. But yeah, I did do it though. I broke my arm, but I always like to do things that people say don't do. Yeah. You know, you got to go skydiving or scuba diving. You have to sign like 5 pages of I'm not going to sue you if this happens. Right. And I'm like, I think that since it's this far in life, and you're talking about this last 6 months, year, it's the idea that I lived a good life. If I'm driving on the edge of a mountain, jumping out of a plane, diving 6,000 feet underwater, and something happens, God bless it. Yeah. But with the people that I do these things with, I trust them with my life. They're very good at what they do, or your safety is important to them. Yeah. So I don't really worry about any of that stuff.
So obviously safety is important, just to have people do these kind of things. Safety is important, but that mentality though, that is, you know, unique. That, you know, living for today, it's something that I do all the time too myself, where you focus on the difficult things. Why not do it, right? I ask myself a lot of times, well, why not, right? When you're asked a question, oh, don't do that. That's too hard. Why not, right? So that's a question. It's great. It's a good way to live your life, you know, fearless. You know, what's next? What's next on your list?
So I want to go paragliding. They offered it to me through Project Airtime. They wanted me to do it in Bourbonnais, Chicago, in Illinois. Okay. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't want to fly over some dirty roads. I want to fly over the mountains. Push me off a mountain. I'm with somebody on the back and let me sail over the mountains of Colorado, mountains of France, somewhere. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it was Utah. And then I think they were a little upset that I didn't want to do it here. And I haven't heard back yet. But I'm going to I got the High Five organization where I did some 4x4 side-by-side mountain driving out last September in Colorado, and they have a camp that they do that too. So they do fishing, fly fishing, side-by-side driving, and sky parasailing.
Parasailing.
Whatever you call it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I've seen a video of it, and it was somewhere in Europe, and they're up in the mountains, and it's like you start off and just like float over one of the towers.
You just want to go slow. You don't want to be diving and getting to the ground quick. I should have did it in Chicago, but I want to absorb something that I don't see. I don't want to see the city. I want to be over some beautiful mountains landscape and something. That's why I like diving.
The video was awesome. I saw, you're north of Chicago,
Yeah, I was
right?
in Northwest Indiana.
Okay, right. So you see the lake in the background. It's just that familiar.
So the sky, you're talking the skydiving.
Right.
That was fun, yeah.
Yeah, seen that view of the city. I mean, I've seen it flying in to Chicago, never from outside the plane. Talk about that a little bit, though. That's not something that everybody gets to do. That freedom of flying through the air or swimming underwater. Like, how is that? How does that change your life?
So when I jumped out of the plane, so all the way, let me give you a little story. All the way leading up to it, I was hyped up. Yeah. Forget these people. I got this. I took Eric Bonilla with me, and I met, bring somebody, I think, Brian Martinez from Indiana. He lives over there. And they wanted to check it out. No one wanted to dive with me, but they wanted to go. So I was good until I got there, and I seen these teenage-looking characters look like they were out getting hired drunk last night, folding my parachute. Then I go, I lived a good life. I signed the paperwork and I went up in the air. I got up into the plane. The guy had me attached to him because we got a tandem. And then the door opened and I'm holding on. And he says, "You can't hold on." And there it is. I'm paraplegic. I got no feeling from the chest down. And I'm sitting on the edge of a plane. Even though I'm with him, he goes, "You can't hold on." And I'm like, well, maybe I should go and forget about this dive. For about 5 seconds there. And I look behind me and there's 15 people in the plane. And I go, what the hell? And he goes, if we fall out the plane, that was the first words out of his mouth. I'm like, he said, just go with it. He goes, I got a parachute, we're good. So I'm like, all right. But I enjoy that exhilaration of, like you were saying, challenging, maybe in a different word that you used, challenging yourself to do something that 90% of them people are not going to try. Mm-hmm. Or can't try because they don't have the ability to get to that or funding to get to do stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's a ton of things, For me, with the kids, I feel like I need to stick around, right? So I need to be a little more safe in my life until at least maybe they're adults, and then I can reconsider jumping out of a plane or something like that. But for a lot of it, it's the fear. It's driving up, seeing the plane there, seeing the teenagers folding your parachute is what's going to stop a lot of people. Yes. But you went on. Yeah. You signed the paperwork. Yeah. You still got on the plane, though. Yeah. That's the difference.
That same thing with scuba diving, right? You walk into the pool where they train me, and I try to dive with Dive Heart, which they're very well organized. They got master divers that have been diving for 40 years, 50 years, Marines, any armed forces, military, and firemen. And so I'm secure, and I feel that. And even if I wasn't, when I went into the pool, I didn't know all that stuff. I got in the pool, and it's so great underwater.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to hear nobody talk.
So you started off. So you've been on 2 trips. You've been to Mexico, Cozumel twice, right? Two dive trips.
Yes, I've been. Well, I got certified in. This was my 3rd year diving. So gotcha. I got certified 3 years ago. Okay. In the summer sometime. Yeah,
and so that's in the pool. You start off in the pool. Yeah, thankfully, you're not in the middle of the ocean.
We start off in 2 feet of water. You go underneath. If you're not comfortable, you come back up. Even with someone walking, they'll get you in there. Because my sister, she's terrified of the water, but she wants to do this. So I told her, if you come, we'll put you in. We'll let you sink under the water. And if you don't like it, you stand back up. If you go out a little farther, you go down, you stand back up till you can't stand up no more. And if you can't go in there, then you can't do it. Yeah. Yeah. But for me, I went in and I scooted down to 12 feet pretty quick. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Yeah. I couldn't keep my buoyancy, they say, because you have to stay still in the water for the animals, fish or the coral reef. You're not supposed to touch it. And so I've learned that over the last 3 years. So I'm pretty self-sufficient underwater.
So I saw the video, and it looked like somebody was holding you, but being able to get around, that's you can do things on your own now and become able to kind of navigate on
Yeah, they, again, getting my BCD with my tank on and getting me into water and making sure I'm secure, that's their job. And we're training as we're diving too, because we're training new people to come out and help other people. So I allow them to, I want them there. Safety reasons. I will not dive by myself, but I'll dive with this group, and then we're training too. And my idea with any kind of thing that I'm doing is we want it to be sustainable for a long period of time.
Right.
So if your help, be it triathlon, be it any kind of sport we're doing, I would like it. If we're training people, use me. I'll dumb myself down a little bit so you can utilize yourself.
Because there's more people, and that's the biggest thing, right? I think there's that big stigma where I'm able to do it. I don't need help, but it's like at some point we have to humble ourselves and accept that help, because people are willing to volunteer and learn how to help us and help more people do it. So it's a humbling experience to be able to. Or sometimes even accept that. Okay, I know for sure I don't need you to open that door for me, but I'm not going to kill that spirit. So thank you so much for opening the door for me.
And people walk past you.
Right. I'd rather have people overly helpful than being ignored. Right. At least you're being seen.
But not everybody. Yeah, people are like, get away from that door. I'm like, oh man, they're trying to help.
Yeah, right. That was young Juan, 20-year-old Juan, independent Juan. I didn't want to hear. I didn't need help. I needed to show the world that I didn't need help. Right? It's a different perspective. That's how we've grown. And now the perspective is, I know somebody in a chair will need the help opening that door.
That's the concept.
I don't want to kill that person's spirit because that other person that needs it. Or I want people in chairs to have that negative stigma. So
I think that concept with diving is like there's a lot of quadriplegics and people that are paras, or somebody that is like, I have a guy named Bob who dives with us. He's 80 plus years old. His sister dives with him, and she's like, I don't know if he had another year, but this year he was down there and they're moving him around. He starts kicking with his feet again. So his muscle memory in his brain started kicking again. So helping train people to be able to work with people like that, even work with me, right? Because I'm not so fully self-sufficient. I can't get my gear on. I can't get in the water by myself. I could try, but it's a lot easier with them.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it, I mean, that even hearing that makes me more open to the ideas. Like, okay, there's a group that is well trained, they've done it. Like, it makes someone that may be on the edge of doing it feel more comfortable about it.
That's how I sell it. That's how I sell it to people.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you got to watch these people, and then I give them a video. So,
right.
Yeah.
So this I think is a great place to pivot, because we've talked a lot about safety and doing things right and adaptive sports. It needs to be that way. That wasn't always Angelo, though, right? If we rewind pre-injury, 90s Chicago, 90s culture, right? We talked about house music, Julian Jumping Perez. Like, that was a different world right then, right? So the people that we see now, the Angelo we see now is the athlete, and we will tell this great story. But I think it's really important to start with the youth, right? Let's go back to, to the premature baby. Let's go back to, the third grade house fire in Pilsen. Let's start there. What if we met Angelo Perez back then? Who were we meeting?
So I lived in Pilsen, Cullerton, and Paulina from 67 to like 73. Every day waking up to gunshots in the neighborhood. My father was in a gang. My father's been in prison since I was born. My mom married my stepfather, and my grandmother was there. But you mentioned this, so where I'm going to start from there. You mentioned the fire. So one day after school, I think I was in second or third grade, and I went upstairs to my grandmother's house when she was at the bar. She owned a bar, and I started playing with matches, and the house started on fire. And my little pea brain said, "Open the windows; it'll die the fire out." Oh. So little pea brain opens the windows, and I'm like, "Oh shoot! There's no way the fire's going out."
Fed the fire that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I went downstairs screaming, "Fire! Fire! Fire!" No one knew what it was, right? They thought my grandmother knew the fire marshals and stuff. She did a lot of stuff in the community, and it was electrical fire.
So the house burned down.
House burned down.
Yep.
Well, mostly, yeah. The frame was still there. I would drive by once in a while, but yeah. So the house burnt. We all got out. We were all sitting at the table. Funny story was my family keeps saying, "Why did you put mustard in your porridge?" Because that day I was playing around. I put mustard in my porridge and I went upstairs for something, and I didn't eat it, but it was always the go-to joke. And they didn't know I did that till probably 2000.
Really?
Yeah.
So how does that come out? When do you actually say, "Hey, you know what?"
I hinted around it for a long time with my brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
But one day we were just talking. I'm like, that the fire was just me playing with matches. That's why I came running down the stairs and got everybody. My idea was to get everybody out because I was like, shit, it was getting big.
Oh.
And then my grandma had plastic on everything, so that just fed the fire too.
Yeah.
They had plastic on the couches and everything everywhere. She had, but anyway, so that was that. We moved away from Cullerton and Paulina, which was sort of beneficial for the family. We got away from the gunshots every day. We moved into a white neighborhood. My mom's white. I'm part white, but I looked totally Hispanic back then.
Okay.
Black hair, black hair. If you look at me now, comparison to then, you're like, that's not the same person, right? So we moved in a neighborhood. It was peaceful. It was quiet. Everything was going fine. Besides all the racism towards, we were the first Hispanic, like biracial person, but more looking Hispanic.
What years was this? What?
73.
Okay.
And so that's when a lot of my trouble started, right? Identity issues, teachers not favoring us as everybody else, people talking either you're not Mexican because you don't speak Spanish, or you're not white because you look white, right? Mm-hmm. So where to fit in, and a lot of bullying started a little bit, and that's when me and my brother started fighting back, and we became very combative with people.
Yeah. And that was the era, right? That was your parents told you, right? Somebody hits you hit them right back, right?
My stepfather used to tell us once, if we get in a fight and one of you guys don't beat the other person up, if they fight with your brother and they beat him up, I'm kicking your ass.
Yeah. Right.
So, and they did. He did. I remember one day I fought with someone and they didn't stick in and they had to go back out and find him. So we moved over there. It just was rough. And then the Catholic church, Catholic schools, they used to be able to hit on you. And I wasn't having it at home with some issues that the family was having at home, drinking in the household, some like just regular hitting of the kids and stuff like that, some abuse. And in school I was acting out. Back then they don't ask you, why are you acting out? You're just a bad kid. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, being a social worker and stuff like that, you look at it and you say, okay, there might be some turmoil. Let me go check out what's going on at home. But then no. Nuns would go to hit me and I would swing back on them. So, or call them out of their name. So a lot of trouble was going on here at school when it was stemming from home and the community, right?
Right.
So I ended up flunking fourth grade for whatever I said to the nun. I tried to get into a few other schools, found out that I didn't pass and they asked me to leave. Ended up at St. Rita Grammar School, which had a football team.
Nice.
Which was a blessing because I got to get my anger out a different way. Right? I got to play football with one of the hardest hitting people that I ever met, John Foley, which went on to Notre Dame and play.
Nice.
Back then, you used to be able to hit helmet to helmet, knock the shit out of me. I'd be laying on the ground. But coaches, you know how the coaches back in the early 80s and 90s were, right? They just grab you by your face, get out there. Yeah. I remember one time I broke my finger. My mom was at the game. She says, you're out. And she put a cast on. Next time she see me, the cast was off, and I'm playing football again. I'm like, we were kids, right? We wanted to do what we wanted to do. So it did help me a lot. But I graduated and went to Brother Rice High School, trying to get away from everybody that knew me. I went to a place farther away. I didn't want my family life to follow me, I think, at the time. Yeah. There was some just some shit, And
but Brother Rice is not easy school to get into, so you apply.
Yeah, I got in. My brothers went there temporarily. That's a whole nother story. And so I decided to go there and let me try it. And I got in there and I passed. I was smart, but I was always told that I was dumb. I had to be smart to be able to survive this long.
But that's the two different things, right? Intelligence and making the right choices, or making
Yes.
the intelligent choices are two different things. And teenagers, kids that are facing difficult lives, like you said, nowadays there are reasons for that, or you can look into it. Where if you're labeled as a problem child, that's it. I was excluded from some of the, there was kids at school. They're like, well, these group of kids, they're going to go to college, and if they didn't see that in you, you weren't invited to those same programs, and right, you want to prove your worth and say, maybe somebody didn't see value in me, but even today, we get looked past just for being in a wheelchair, but we bring a lot to the table, so it's tough being a kid and going through that.
Yeah, that part of wanting to prove myself comes in a little later.
Yeah,
right. Where I learned that I need to prove myself to me, not to anybody else, but to me. I tried out for basketball. Just about to make final cuts. Decided to go roller skating the night before. My mom says, "Please don't go." I'm like, "I'll be fine." I go there, and then some guy takes my legs out from underneath me. My ankle goes, almost broke, out for the season, can't play. I didn't have anybody tell me, "Oh, it's going to be fine. Just come out next year." Coaches, mom, dad, my mom was young. I don't blame her for anything. My father figures, no one said that. And I went into sort of a depression, anger, again, smoking weed, find the people who were doing what I shouldn't be doing. They were drinking a little bit, smoking a little bit, so that's how high school ended up. I started going that route, went back to being angry a little bit more than I was at the time, and I was asked by Father Day, I think his name was, or anyway, the priest at Brother Rice with my mom in the room asked me, "Do you think you can behave, Mr. Perez?" And I said, "I don't know." And that was it. They asked me to leave.
That was an honest answer.
I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think I didn't want to be there, for one. I ended up at St. Lawrence High School next, and I never went to school. I wrote letters and said, please excuse my son. I was always smoking weed with the guys in the car. And one day I walked into school, and the priest goes, "This is the letters we have, a bunch of papers. This is what we have all. And then we got this in the mail yesterday." And he goes, "The handwriting doesn't look the same." And this is my mom drinks. I think I said something like that. I didn't know what to say, so I ended up leaving that school. So school, I tried over and over. I went to Hubbard after that, and it was so easy to ditch out of a public high school. They didn't care if you were there.
Oh, yeah. I used to walk out the door, and they would, the security would be like, "All right, see you tomorrow."
Just one less person to hassle with.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my high school years. Right after high school, my mom and dad, stepfather got divorced. It was like 1985 or 84, I think it was. Because we were supposed to not after high school, but it was in the middle. I was supposed to graduate in 86.
Okay.
So somewhere around there. They got divorced. They moved. We sold the house. My brother and sister, brother went to college, sister went to college, and me and my brother Tony went to the south side, farther, and lived on the streets. Did what we did to survive.
So moved away from the family.
Yeah, everybody's scattered. Mm-hmm. They offered us to go with them. I just was comfortable where I was. I didn't need any more turmoil, and I believed like my life would be more turmoil because I don't feel safe. I feel safe in the hood. Felt safe. I don't care if it was a street. I felt safe where I was. Mentally, I guess it's where I was comfortable. Right. Not safe. Right. I should say comfortable.
Okay. So early 20s now, living on your own.
I think I was just right at that time. It was 84. I was like 19 or 18.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was on the street, living in garages, sleeping in cars. I was taken in by a friend's family, which was. I'm going to go back a little bit. I joined a gang earlier in life, a little bit, right after that period, right there, before we got, the house got separated. Okay. But it was just starting, and.
So after high school.
Yeah, sometime in the middle of high school.
Yeah.
I was when I dropped out and stuff in 82, maybe 83 and 84 is when I found the Ambrose Street gang. I was being chased one day through Marquette Park, and some guy told me not to come there, so I went there. And then him and all his friends chased me through the parking lot, through the park, in my car, to the other side. And I didn't even know these guys. These other bunch of Mexican guys just jump out of nowhere, see me fly, and I'm like, ah. And they just bottled and bricked the cars, and then guys just kept going. Yeah. So got to know them and just hung out with them.
So you found that brotherhood. You found a family. And that is, as much as a 19-year-old and a former gang member myself, that's the draw, right? Is there's people like me in the same situation. Here's a brotherhood.
It's a struggle. We're going to struggle together.
Right.
You know, I didn't know anything about shootings. I didn't know anything about any of that stuff, really. I mean, not that I wasn't into it, right? But you learn it. You learn what people are doing as you move along in it. Those are stories that I'd rather not tell.
Yeah.
But they were there, right? Met a lot of people who I'm still friends with today. Some who are doing the same thing, some who have raised families, some who, you know, some are good, some are who they are.
People have grown. So you've stayed connected with some of the guys through the years. Yeah. I was young enough. I was 14 when I got shot. I would say there's about 30 guys in our block. Mm-hmm. And today there's 3 of us still alive. 3 of us, you know, and this was 98 when I got shot. One guy is in jail for life. One guy is the lone. Now he's the jefe. Now he's running the shit. Wow. You know, so
3 people. That's rough.
Yeah, right. So not going into all of the madness, you know, too deep, but there is at least one story, you know, that did change your life, you know. So that one day, we all think we're invisible. I definitely thought I was invisible. So then I hear it as, you know, shielding a friend, 23 years old. What happened that day?
So, for one, I was on house arrest. My mom, right? She's always stepping in somewhere to help out. She found me an apartment at 1400 Lakeshore Drive. Back then, it was only $450 a month. Well, it's probably about 4 times or 5 times as much. But I was on house arrest. I was working security across the street. And after work, I took my arm bracelet off. I can say that now that it's 35 years later. And I left it at the house. And I went out. And then instead of going to the bar on Rush Street, which I should have did because there was a lot of women there, I ended up going down to 18th Street to see a friend with a friend of mine, Johnny Blackberry. We used to call him Johnny Salazar. And we went down there. Seen some guys who got out of prison, talked to them for a little bit. He got himself some stuff that he was smoking. And we were on a bus stop, Blue Island and 18th. My grandmother had a hot dog stand right there, and our bar was right down the street when we were kids. And I'm standing on the bus stop waiting for the Blue Island bus to take me because it'll drop me off right downtown here on Michigan Avenue. And I look, and I could see a guy standing a block and a half down, like a nice block down, behind Church's Chicken or whatever chicken stand was there. And I knew that's another game that's Latin Counts over there. I was raised over there. I know who it is. And I'm like, you know, don't say nothing. We're here he's getting high. I'm waiting for the bus. I don't care. A carload of my friends from because there's 18th and Troop. Here's the bus. They're right here and the other guy's over there. They pull up and they see him. They start screaming some stuff back and forth. He shoots. We get down. Now you got to give me a ride. We get up. My friends stand there all crazy, high. And instead of doing what they taught me to do was hit the ground when I heard the gunshot, I dove and I pushed him. And when I pushed him, I got hit in the back. It spun me and I landed on the ground. I remember no pain, just couldn't get up. Yeah. People are like, you're joking. Get up. Come on, quit playing. I can't get up. And they're like, we're going to call an ambulance. I said, no, you're not. I said, now that you guys, this happened, because you're going to get me in the car. Yeah. And you're going to take me to the hospital. And most people, you know, they say don't move, right? I felt like I'll be dead if I laid there. So we got me in the car. The girl, Lisa Wellworth, still friends with her and her family. She was crazy. No one knew where they were going. So I actually, being paralyzed from here down, I had to sit myself up and point my way to Rush Presbyterian Hospital. Yeah. Because no one knew where they were going. So the desire to live was there. I got in Rush Presbyterian Hospital. It's where I was born. It's where I almost died the first time. And I remember telling my mom's name and number, and I passed out for a few days. Woke up, and my mom was there. Right? So that was that day. It was rough for a while after that.
Yeah, I'm sure. So that conversation, I know for me, I was never explicitly told you're going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of your life. I had to piece it together, and I figured it out over a few days. What was that experience for you? What is that?
RIC. Wow. Where were you when you got?
I went to Schwab. I was sent. They wanted to send me to RIC, but health insurance said no. Let's send them to Schwab.
Insurance. So I ended up at RIC because I was downtown, so closer there. My mom and they always had pool. She had pool to where to send me. Her and my grand. Got in there. I remember back then it wasn't private rooms. It was that little 12-story building, and you had like 4 people in a room.
Yeah.
And everybody cut off the curtains. And I'm laughing because the doctor, I forgot his name. It wasn't Dr. Chen, because Dr. Chen's retiring now, but he's been with me since then. There was a doctor that walked in, and he just said, "You're never going to walk again." I think first words out of me was "F you." Right? I think those were the first words out of my mouth. But, some doctors don't have a bedside manner. Some people they just need to get it out. There's no easy way of saying that. But there probably was a little more smoother way of doing it.
A rehab doctor's probably said that thousands and thousands of times. Probably.
I think it was an intern, though. It was his Dr. Chen's intern at the time. Yeah. I forgot his name, but the little white guy. He just looked at me, and I'm like, But it was true, right? But again, I heard George state on his cast, we were able to stay there for 2 to 3 months. Unlike now, it's a week sometimes, 2 weeks. We were able to stay there. We had a little gym upstairs with therapy, and it was cool. It taught us what we needed to learn to be able to function, to start to function on the outside, because you really don't learn until you're in the community, right? It still was in 1991, a year after the ADA came, so stuff still wasn't available the way, like curbs, buses, all that stuff was coming in slowly. It was a rough go.
Yeah. So at 20, you're driving. You have, your life is already kind of set in your mind, and that goes all out the window, right? So that's that adjustment. And me and George talked about it. Being 14 for me, it was rough, but I had, my parents were there, every single day. George as well. He was young, 8, 10 years old. What does that look like though? You getting released from the hospital. I remember it was an eye-opening day for me, because you're introduced, and I think as soon as we pulled out of the parking lot at Schwab, we passed by a car of teenage guys that looked at me, and I was like reminded instantly, like I just left the hospital 3 seconds ago, and these gangbangers are already eyeing me. Right, they're still out here. So what does life look like now for a 23-year-old newly disabled person?
I was asked to try to find a place up north away from everything that I knew and was comfortable with, and I decided to go back again to the south side. I needed to, because at the time I was getting high. I remember, so just step back a little bit, back in 1990 was the first time, I was doing cocaine for a long period of time. In 1990 was the first time I was invited to smoke cocaine. And I ended up doing that, and that's where my downfall happened a lot in my life. I did that off and on for many years. Again, I think the adrenaline rush, right? When the stuff I do, it's an adrenaline rush. That was an adrenaline rush.
It's a lot of those things. Don't do that. People say, don't do that. Don't smoke crack. He said, fuck it.
So I where were we at? You asked me a question.
1990, new life, new disability.
So when I moved back to 87th and Kedzie, dealing with that was a lot of drugs, because the new life wasn't for me. Right? I was on the top of my tier. I was running my own little crew. I was hanging out with all the women. I was doing everything that I thought I should be doing.
Right.
Yeah, so,
you live in the dream. I talk about, my idol as a 14-year-old used to watch Scarface every day. I wanted to be the next Tony Montana.
Yeah.
Like, that was the dream, right?
Yeah.
But
so it was a lot of drugs for several years. I ended up, my mom, again, stepped in, found me a place across the street from where George used to live at 170 West Oak Street.
okay.
All right. Didn't know George too much. I seen him here and there. We talked a little bit. I think after I tried to get clean. And I went to an AA meeting over on Division in Wells at the Mustard Seed. It was a big firehouse at the time. And I'm like, man, I wish I could run into someone like me that knows the struggles I'm having, both with the wheelchair and with the drugs. And as I rolled into a meeting one day, there sat Greg Ridley. Greg Ridley introduced me to the world of adaptive sports.
Nice. Well,
Greg Ridley was one of the fastest little suckers. I seen him on the softball field. And so for 95 and 96 and 97, I forgot which year. It was either 95 and 96, one of them. We played softball and basketball with Angelo and George and Paul and Kurt. And Greg died in 96 or 97. Took me another year and I fell off. Everybody didn't understand what I was going through mentally, and they have their own stories. We all similar, but there was a lot more in my head at the time from growing from past, and I sort of just escaped back into drugs for a while. Left sports alone. Off and on, I came back over the years, but as I left sports, I decided one time to go take my GED. I got my GED in 95 at Harold Washington College. And someone says, why don't you just stay and get your associate's degree? It took me a long time to finish that degree due to drugs. Every time I felt I got on a rampage, I stopped going to school because there was no learning when I was getting high.
That duality, though, that's not a decision. That's not a move that most drug addicts make. That's not a move most gangbangers make, to make the decision to I'm going to go get my GED. I'm going to go get a bachelor's degree. I'm going to go back and get my master's degree. And that whole time struggling with addiction, and you did both well. You were succeeding. You were getting the degrees, and you're also getting high. Like, you did both of those things well, and they don't mesh at all. What does that life look like? How do you balance this double life where you're doing the things you should be doing, but then you're also doing the things you feel like you need to be doing?
Or the things that my mind was relieving my mind of some pressure at the time, I thought, right? The drugs was my escape. It's always been an escape for me. Even though there was pleasure in doing some of the drugs that I did. I enjoyed them. But going to school was something I was doing. I was proving to myself that I wasn't that dumb little, as they called it when I was a kid, little frickin' Mexican or spick, they called it at the time. Right. I wasn't that dumb little kid the teachers told me or the people in the neighborhood called me. I just was a victim of my circumstance and of my choice, right? But sometimes we're thrusted choices upon us that we have to choose, and we don't know what to do. There were so many people at school that supported me, the presidents of the school, people have seen so much in me, and I just didn't see it in myself, right? I went with the flow. Mm-hmm. I morphed into who they wanted me to be, and then I escaped and went back home and did what I did, and it took me from 1995 to 2010 to get my associate's degree. But before I finished my associate's degree, I got my bachelor's degree because I didn't finish certain classes.
Okay.
So all through my associate's degree, which is, I joined Phi Theta Kappa. I was on the honors roll. I've never had anything under a C, and I only had 2 C's through college career. Right. They took me to UK with them, with the president and stuff of the school. So it was an experience that if I would have, I heard George talk about, I would change things. If I went back, I would change little things. I wouldn't have got high when I was going to school. I would have took full advantage of what they taught me, and what they wanted to give me, because people seen so much potential in me. But again, I think
it took you seeing it in yourself to take yourself seriously.
Yeah. It took a lot longer for me to see it than other people, right?
Yeah.
Because they didn't know the me that I believed myself to be for a while.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that. And I thought, I was like, there's one thing to try to help out the wheelchair guy, but for so many people to recognize that in you, and these are educators, these are people that do this for a living. So I think, that was it. You're clearly, an intelligent guy, and it takes an intelligent guy to be able to do both. Like I've gone to school, I've got the degrees myself, and I've always done that. And there's always been marijuana in my back pocket. Like that has always been around, and so it definitely didn't make anything easier, right? Mm-hmm. It's not motivating. It doesn't, you don't get high and want to finish a paper or study for a test, right? So being able to do that, though, that takes a different level of grit, and I think it almost makes it harder, because you're like, well, I can pass this class and I can go have my fun.
So, but I didn't do that. I generally dropped my classes when I started getting high, because when I get high, that's what I was doing. I went, not all the time. I can flow through some semesters, but generally speaking, I dropped. I signed up for my classes. I got high. I dropped them, and it went on for a few, and that's why it took so long.
Yeah.
It was like two different Angelos battling in your head, right? The person who wants to do the right thing, and the person who wants to go back under the covers and be protecting himself and do what he finds is very comforting to him.
And you think that is self-doubt, escape? Where do you think that comes from?
Escape of maybe, I don't know. I can't put a finger on it, because it was just who I was as it was going along. Things, as a child, the way things were, as a teenager, and all the influences I have, should say, from society. Mm-hmm. A little bit from home and society, the things that I've been taught about myself, who they thought I was, and I never really had an opinion of who I was. Mm. It just was feeding off other people. It took me a while to learn that, and then I think after I got sober, when I was, the first time, and I met Greg and stuff, and I met Adapt, and that's when I got into adaptive sports. My personality of me is like, oh, I could be this person, I don't need to be the person who I thought I had to be since I've been getting high or doing these things and stuff like that.
So that first influence, though, with Greg, right? He passed away. It was an overdose.
Yes.
And I mean, so that's your introduction, and I see that in trying to relate it to myself. Like I had Ramon Medina. He was the guy I was rolling around Spalding High School. He stopped and he said, "You look like you shoot the ball. Like come to the gym with So I would imagine, bro. That's always been my brother. He's brought me from the guy that hated his situation, that hated everything about high school, in a wheelchair, and he's like, and he opened that door for me. So that I don't know. I think that had to play a big role in losing.
Yeah, at the time, yes. I mean, I got over it, I think, mentally for a little bit, and then I think it was just like my support system. It was support, because we used to talk to each other about it. We lived close to each other. We did different things. However, even though George George was a close friend of mine, I think the one who stuck and that I've been a crutch on, because I got high for some years, was Angelo Perez. Yeah. He's always been the one, no matter if I was playing softball or out of touch, he would call to find out how I was doing. He would stop and see me, drop me a few bucks, do something, see me in some crazy situations. Yeah. Reminds me, and I don't even remember what they were. But he's always been there. So he's like, we all have certain ones that stick out, even though the rest are, and I'm going to say the community is there. You guys, everybody that's in our community. I mean, it's funny that, you know, we're all on a text or on a thread. We have each other's numbers. If you really need to reach out, you reach out. Yeah. If not, you see each other from time to time where you're at, you know.
Yeah. So does that help manage that fight today? Because we all know, I mean, you know, I think some people has that connotation or that false impression that you beat addiction. You do it once, and as I beat it, I've gotten past that. But it's a daily choice. It's a daily struggle, and it takes a community. And I think, you know, that's what our community, you know, is. We just want you to know, you know, you've definitely been on our mind. We love everything that you've been doing these past couple of years. We know how difficult, you know, losing Jackie has been. She's always been that rock that your biggest fan through, you know, she saw through everything, through all the struggles, right? She was always there. So, you know, and that's what we want to be for you, that community, because that's, you know, so I just wanted to, and probably edit all that out anyway, but I just wanted to know that, you know, that's the whole idea, man, because we see what you're doing, and I recognize that, you know, this can't be easy for you. So thanks for, you know, even coming on and recording.
You just said something a minute ago, though. You said, I think, or even hinted towards, like, what's keeping me sober. First and foremost, you mentioned something, I think, in a text to me about Stephen Covey. I mentioned him a lot, right? And he, in his quote, I think, and I'm not going to quote it, but his words were, when you're about to do something, think with the end in mind. So what is the end result of me getting high? The end result of me getting high is me losing everything, losing my mind possibly. I'm going to tell you about a dream that I had one time. Not having any money left, not being able to get out and play anything or do anything like I'm doing right now. And that keeps me sober. But the second thing that keeps me sober is fentanyl.
Yeah.
Honestly, right? I'm going to tell you honestly.
Really?
Because I used to like doing my PCP. I used to like doing my cocaine. And who knows if there was not a such thing called, I mean, I don't think I would do it anyway, but if there was a thing called fentanyl, that prevents me from doing most any drug, even marijuana most of the time.
Yeah.
Because if I make a mistake and I choose to pick up something and I get it from somewhere, and the luck of the draw with my luck,
right.
I'm against some fentanyl. So that's tip number 2. But I'm enjoying life too much now to even want to do some drugs. I that's why I don't even like to take a brownie or anything or smoke a little bit of weed, is because I get a little bit of mental fogness, and I'm not in control, and I don't know, my mind doesn't work as well, and I like to do things where my mind is all in it.
Yeah, be present, be aware of the surroundings. As you missed, you know, those nights seem fun, but you feel like shit in the morning. You don't remember what happened. It's like, what, did I have fun? Did I enjoy that night?
You want to hear my dream?
Yeah, I want to hear. You lost your mind.
My dream was, have you ever seen one of those old psych ward movies where there's a little picture window and all these people are going, ugh. I'm going to be sitting here talking to you, right? If you come to see me and this happens to me, and I'll be here like this looking at you, but in my head there's that picture window and you're talking to me and I'm like, please help, and all these people are going, ah, and that's where I'll be. I'm going to lose my mind. Yeah. I've had that dream.
Wow.
I've almost lost it a few times probably, but I've had that dream. And I'm like, so those few things keep me sober, you know. And then, you know, for a long time I was trying to do something for everybody else, you know, but I've learned that it's me. I need to do it for me. Yeah. Everybody else can reap the benefits of me not using drugs, because it's a lot more beneficial than me using drugs. So if I'm using drugs, I'm using everybody else. And when I'm not using drugs, I'm giving of myself to everybody else.
Yeah, no, you've done incredible things. You know, I remember a story too of it was Mo and I were going to a halftime show at UIC, and we just get there. We're literally 10 feet away from the door of the getting into, and door burst open, and Angelo Perez comes out the door, and he's angry. I don't know what's going on. I was like, oh hey, what's up, Angelo? And you were mumbling, so you were having a conversation with yourself, and I don't even think you saw me or Mo. Like you rolled right past us, and it was just like, oh, and Mo was just like, was that Angela? And it was just like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he did. Right. He was on a mission or something. And then come to find out, like, we go in, there was the halftime show, but like, you were in school at that time. You were setting up. You were involved with that setting up. So what was that story? Why were you leaving before the halftime show even started?
I was still getting hired. I graduated high school. Graduated college, UIC, social work. And as soon as I graduated, someone introduced me back into PCP. I took it, and I went flying again. So, and it wasn't a very long time, but I was working at the Disability Resource Center there. I was a disability counselor.
Yeah.
It started to affect me. I got away with it because they thought I was drunk, and they sent me for an alcohol test, but I passed. So, but one day we were there, me and Kelsey Havel, which was interacting with Shirley Ryan a lot. And they gave me the project, and I involved her. But again, drugs do funny thing to your mind. She sort of took over the project at the last minute. Could be because I wasn't present. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But it could be because she was just spiteful too. And that's what I felt at the time. So I showed up and I said something to her, and she's like, and she made a face at me. And I created a nice UIC tablecloth. I ripped it off the thing. And I was like, the words came out of my mouth. That's all I'm going to say. I don't even know what the words were, but they weren't nice. I had police come to my door a few days later.
Oh, no.
Because of the things I said. But that's when you see me storming out. I probably had the thing wrapped around me somewhere, and I was going out the door.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a halftime show with Shirley Ryan, and you guys were coming out to do the halftime show.
Yeah.
The Hornets were.
Wow.
And it's one of my less proud moments, but you were there, so that is the story because you've seen it.
Right. Unfortunately, we witnessed it, but man, that's those. And I told Ken this, and I was like, those stories where it's embarrassing to tell. It might be things that you would rather keep to yourself, but telling that's going to help somebody, telling that's going to open up your eyes. Because, hey, it's not only, did you find bottom, you've hit rock bottom, but you've climbed a mountain, you've hit rock bottom again, and you've still strive. You continue to climb that mountain. So that's the point, though.
That was the second time, right?
Right.
There was a third time that I hit rock bottom. I think you were asking me that question, but maybe you'll ask me later. But yeah, so yes, I think that goes to what you talk about grit and, what was I looking at here? When you go through your adversities in life, I think you and George talk about it, and so does everybody here talk about it lately.
Right.
It's what shapes you to overcome things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started with adversities from a young child. I've learned from a young child you need to be your own best advocate, because if you don't get, it was different when I was young, because when I was young, if I don't get what I want, I need to get it myself, right? Mm-hmm. So that was not the proper way of doing it. But now I'm my own best advocate. If I need something, I know how to get it in the appropriate way. Right. Be it grant,
right.
Be ask someone for something, give back.
You've always had that voice. You had to fight for yourself.
Yeah.
As a kid, as a teenager in the 90s, you did it a different way. You did it with your fists. You did it, but now it's great. It's great to hear that you've learned how to do things, that you need to change your life. You need to better your life. Then you figure out, how to get that. And that shows exactly what we're talking about, grit. I just want to throw another alternate reality question right there. Take a second to kind of think about it, right? So you were on a path before you got shot and paralyzed. If you hadn't been shot that day, where do you think Angelo Perez ends up? Does he even make it to 57?
I thought about this question. Have you ever seen the movie Heat?
Yeah.
You ever see that gun battle in the middle of the street after they robbed the bank?
Yeah.
My life was going that way. It was and I was dealing drugs, trying to support myself on the streets and I started my little own branch of Ambrose on 61st at Sacramento. I had a lot of friends. We started dealing as a group, started running, and then a family member joined in and things got bigger. And at that time in the South Side, there was a lot of different people trying to make a name for themselves. And everybody was doing this and that. And I believe that a lot of that stuff, people ended up killing people. Not us, not my brother, not me. But people ended up killing people over drugs and stuff like that in the hood.
Yeah.
And these aren't just the crazy cartels. These are just normal, everyday South Side white Americans, Mexican Americans.
People need to eat. If you take their business, now you're an enemy, right?
But then there was also people who were young and just wanted to make a name for themselves, right? So it was sort of going that route. And maybe not exactly like that, but sometimes I think I might have been doing some dumb shit like that, trying to make money. I've done some stuff with friends who, when we first started getting high again, when I started getting high when I was dealing, because it's when I sort of made the shift from dealing into drugs, using, some stuff that I'm not proud of. Nothing to hurt anybody, but robbing and stealing and stuff like that. That I could see myself with them.
Right.
I could see what
that's what it. Right. Yeah. We're all heading to that final scene in Scarface.
Yeah.
Right. 100 people keep coming and just end up in the pool of your own blood, and that's
you never see someone retire from a life like that.
No, right?
Generally speaking.
That's what I say. I mean, 30 of us. And the lone survivor, now he's the jefe. It's scary.
I shouldn't say lone survivor because you survived and you've done well for yourself.
No, thank you. No, that's a great point. That's right. The unscathed or something,
the people, I see what you're saying, the 3 people who left, right? Him, he's got that. You, and then the one person in prison. You said, right?
Yeah, for life. I mean, that's the whole retaliation.
Could have been there,
right?
I mean, the story that goes from that, right, is that George said something about, one felony, and I'm like, dude, I would never do that. I got 5. I was laughing when I watched it this morning. I'm like, 1, and I could just see him stealing a car in his wheelchair. I've never done that, so he's got me on it. But I mean, I was a little creep growing up. And I know what sometimes youth in inner city look at right now, and that's why adaptive sports is great, because some of them look at all this death and drugs, there's stuff in their neighborhoods and people shooting and killing. And they say, well, what do I got to live for? I'm going to get what I want to get right now. And that's the way I was. Yeah. Even though my life wasn't nowhere near as bad as I thought it was. I see, and that's why I feel, and the educational part came in after I learned about myself. But the questions you were asking, it would have been rough.
Yeah. It's scary. So that's we're better off right where we're at right now. And you talk about stealing cars, but you told a story too. As we met up, we were at the Bulls game. It was just awesome. We were able to take my son Ben to his first game. He was cheering every single play down the court every time.
He was the life of the game. I was, because I'm tired at about 9:00. And I was getting dragged because if we go to like a 3:00 game, I'm wide awake and I'm at the life of the party with you guys. But I was getting tired, and then all of a sudden I hear Ben, "Let's go Bulls defense," and he's doing all this, and then I started doing it with him. Then you look over and you start doing it, and so he bring us all back to life, and I was like, this was so fun.
Yeah,
so great. And I said, I wish it was an afternoon game so I could just be a little more wild with him. So maybe we got to do something in the afternoon.
Another one. Hell yeah, we'll do more. But no, so you told me a story at that game talking about your own fun adventures in your car. You told me about driving down. It was 94 or something. There was a parked car. How do you get out of that? First, tell the story.
So, there's a few stories driving. Only 2 stories driving. One, I was on the south side of Chicago. This is when I was still walking. And I was drinking and driving, so I don't do that anymore. And I bumped off a road of this big hill that comes over 71st Street. So I stopped drinking and driving. I always like to be sober. Second time I was paralyzed in 91, and I started driving in 95. I was still getting high. This is when I was trying to get to school and do stuff. And I learned to drive by just jumping in the car, putting on portable hand control. Someone says, "Where are you going to go?" I jumped on 1994. I drove it. I said, either I'm going to do or I'm going to die. And I knew how to drive. I just never drove with my hands. So it worked out. A few years later, I was getting high the whole weekend with some guy. We were just chilling in the house, smoking. We were smoking the coke. So I sobered up, sort of, right? I was like ready to go. The drove was going somewhere up north on 94. And as I was coming around, I don't know if it's like, I lived off Division, so it had to be around North Avenue a little farther. As you make the turn, the emergency lane is like a quarter of a car. So if someone gets stuck there, they're sitting on the first lane.
They're sticking out.
Yeah, and I came around that corner, and I was doing 55. Nothing's fantastic, and all of a sudden I see the car, so I swerved to the right, and there was a car there, so I swerved back to the left. And then there was the medium, so I swerved back. I didn't hit nobody, and I drove up on the medium and flipped my car over.
Shit.
And as I was laying there on my backside with the guy next, we had our seatbelts on, and I just seen a semi coming right at me. But it was in the lane next to me, but it looked like it was coming at me. I was like, fuck.
See, you're upside down. You're strapped in, so you're hanging upside down in the car. For how long? Like, how long do you sit there?
Oh, it wasn't long. So it just happened so quick because I'm trying to avoid people. So the good thing is I didn't hit nobody. And we're upside down in my little Toyota Corolla, brand new, 96.
Wow.
And I'm in the car. I'm like, oh shit! I was like, open my eyes and it goes zoom. I'm like, oh fuck, it wasn't there. So all of a sudden, some guys come up to help me out of the car. And they're like, come on, get out. I go, I can't get out. I'm paralyzed. My wheelchair, get my wheelchair. He goes, oh, no, wait. I said, go get my wheelchair. He goes, oh, you're paralyzed. You got paralyzed from the accident. I'm like, yeah. I wanted to say, yeah, I was carrying my wheelchair with me just in case.
Right. Just a spare chair. But I would have thought that it would have happened like at that. Oh, my God, this just happened. You're freshly paralyzed.
So, no, they got me out. You know, it was just an accident. And the cops were glad to just give, tickets. Just take it because I wasn't drunk or high at the moment.
Yeah.
It just, the guy was there.
How scary.
I was there. And yeah, it's a story that, if that truck, if I would have ended up in his lane, I would have been halfway across the other part of 94.
They would have smashed. They would have, man, that is scary. No, that's a good story. I just wanted to, I've always thought about any of those like situations. When I get on a plane, I like to fuck with the stewardess and the flight attendants, and it's like, so what happens in an emergency? Like, and I try to play dumb, and all of them are like, well, we're supposed to come help you and get you. I said, are you going to come get me? Are you going to come save me? And they're like, if they're honest, some of them are honest. They're like,
you're on your own.
Depends, yeah. And they'll ask me questions. Well, is the plane on fire? Is it in the water? I was like, yeah, all of it. And they're like, yeah, no, probably not. I'm sorry, sir. And I'm just like, go ahead. You do you. Right? But,
I'll get out and crawl over somebody.
Right. I'll be the first one out of the plane if we, if I
got that issue at home, but yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about ups and downs in life, and I think we were. You just got your master's degree in social work. Let's talk about that first, as that should be talked about and celebrated. So you've finished your master's degree, and then you talk about immediately after.
So I'm going to go back a little bit from there.
Go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah.
so when I got my GED. Going to school wasn't for an education. It was to prove a point first, right? To make sure I tell people I know I'm not dumb. Second was because I was using drugs because I was traumatized as a child. I don't like to use that word, but I believe I was, right, in certain areas. And I pushed through all of it, but it still stuck somewhere with me, right? So I went to school, got my associate's degree in general education with a drug and alcoholism counseling certificate.
Okay.
To learn about drug and alcohol, what it's doing to me, and possibly why I'm doing it. That was my idea, right? Yeah. This is how I learned to stop. This is the only way for me to learn to stop because I enjoyed it. I thought I did, right?
You learn more about it.
So I learned about it, what it was doing to me, why people use, And then I was like, okay, I learned all this stuff from some great professors that have been in the alcoholism field for years in psychology. If I didn't go back one step, if I got into, when I went for my first class, it was an English class in Harold, Washington. If I didn't run into the professor that I ran into, and Gene something, I forgot his name, old little, like a gym teacher type guy.
Okay.
He was so inviting, right? And I've never seen a teacher like that before. And he told me how smart I was. He said, well, you can't keep staying in this class. Your English skills and math skills are better than here, so we're going to move you all the way over here. So that propelled me into wanting to stay into college. So I went in and got my education in the drug and alcoholism counseling, and then I thought, you know what? So now I know why or what it's doing to me. How do I change it?
Yeah, right.
Behavioral science. Moved on to National Lewis, and I went for behavioral science. How do I change my behaviors? That's when Stephen Covey came into my life, right? Read his book. Your paradigm shifts. You're not who you always been, because we were born a blank slate. Everything we learned was from our parents or from society. It only takes you 30 days to unlearn a habit if you do it consecutively. And so I tried, and I mean, a lot of my habits I unlearned, but drugs kept coming back and forth. But I was changing. I know I was changing because my ideas, my goals, my thoughts of other people were all changing at the same time. And my last hurdle was, how do I give back?
Yeah.
How do I give back? So social work came into play. I really wanted to become clinical social worker because that's where the money was, and then give my time to the inner city youth and stuff like that. I went the route of children and families, and at the time I really guess I didn't think it all the way through, and that's DCFS. And DCFS has a cap of what you can and can't do.
It's a state and job.
Yeah, and I just I don't want to be told where I could stop interacting with a family at the time. So all that said and done, that was my idea for college, right?
Yeah,
college
that's so interesting. I mean, just wanting to learn about the drugs that you're addicted to, and I have to imagine after learning, like having some of this knowledge and then still doing the drugs, now having a different perspective, like being high and having that knowledge. How is that? Like, how does that kill the buzz? Does that fuck it up?
Yeah. Even after you get sober the first time, and I was sober for a while in '95 for a while, right? When I met Greg and played softball for a few years, I was sober. Even going back after that, it's not the same anymore because you have the knowledge to know that life is better without it.
Yeah.
It's your body or your mind or that little mental aspect saying, oh, you can do it again. Come on, try it. And then once you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah.
No,
it's so scary. I mean, that's one of our buddies, rest in peace, Major Gray, He was the king of smoking blunts. He smoked a blunt with anybody in the world, and he ended up throat cancer. Like, that's, so you see it, you live and you learn, unfortunately, and that's amazing accomplishment. Thanks for kind of walking through that. So it's incredible to, I think that is, your way of, first, in order to help yourself heal, you have to understand and learn, and being smart enough to commit your life to learning about maybe one of your biggest struggles, and how, that last part I think is huge too, is now how do I give back? How do I help the other people? I used to be the same way, where I never wanted to be an inspiration. That's not why we're doing this podcast. Like, I don't want to, I think, naturally we will do that. But I think I always think about the people in my situation. I think back to the 14-year-old kid in the rehab hospital that now has to reimagine his whole life, the 23-year-old that already figured life out that has to figure it out again. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I think this is so important. So, I think that goes into, so you were doing everything right. Again, battling, maybe had some ups and downs, but, you're positioning yourself, for the rest of your life. So then what happens after this degree, right? It's supposed to be the practice, and so where does that go?
So to just give a premise about wounds, okay? So wounds happen. for us being paraplegics. So over my period of from associate's degree all the way through, I had about stage 4 pressure sores.
Pressure sores, yeah.
On
Skin breakdowns.
Right on my cheeks. Not these cheeks either. Right on my cheeks. And I had to have wound vacs and all this other stuff. And they healed up. I was in nursing homes in and out as I was going to school or in my place, blah, blah, blah. So I finally got healthy, was doing stuff. I was coming out to play softball every couple years or basketball for a little bit. Going back to school, graduated. As soon as I graduated, and like I said, I fell back into the little bit of drug, little bit. Well, it was still a lot more than I used to do in a sense. And I ended up with another pressure sore. I think I graduated in 2012 or 13. By 2014, I lost my apartment. I had stage 4 wound on my left buttock. I had a hiatal hernia where I wasn't able to eat. Everything that I ate came up on me. And I ended up losing my apartment, my car, ended up in a nursing home. Couldn't pay for anything anymore, even with the little bit of money I made from Social Security and the little hustles that I did, jobs and stuff. And so I ended up in a nursing home.
Wow. That's got to be. Is that with the hip? You mentioned the hip.
Yeah, so they took my hip out. Oh. And every time I do scuba or I get in a bike or something, my coaches freak out because my leg does this. I told you I would do it on camera. My leg, I used to put it around my neck. But they're like, you broke your leg. I'm like, no, there's no hip there.
There's no hip. Oh man. So it's muscle and
tied around it.
Okay.
And around the joint, not the joint, but the where the ball joint goes in, around those little holes there.
Yeah.
It's muscles and stuff. And it doesn't, and if I would have known what I know now, I would have told them to keep giving me antibiotics and try to fight it, because now my leg, I think the muscle probably stretched more, and my leg doesn't want to come with me more so as it did in the first 10 years,
gotcha. 5
years, whatever it was. It in the bed when I'm turning, it doesn't want to do. So a friend of mine and his wife had the same issue, and the doctor, Galliano, I think was, and she's like, I'm not going back there, because he wanted to do the same stuff, and his just, and they would rather not do it, which I was glad that they didn't, because it really does mess your life up.
Yeah, I'm sure, like balance, and
they would rather just snatch out some doctors, because this was not a rehab doctor, it was a Northwestern doctor, and they would rather take out and not have to go through all that, and maybe you have to come back and stuff like that.
So this is the sore, it turned into a bone infection?
It went into the bone infection into the hip. It was a possible bone infection in the hip, but he said, yeah, it's probably going to need to come out. So at the time I was really sick, and I had all this stuff going on. I'm like, go ahead. Yeah. And then I had to have the hiatal hernia fixed. I was in a nursing home. And I think the most important part of the aspect is, how did I get out of nursing home?
Yeah.
What was the desire to drive myself out of that nursing home, right? I think we discussed some of the stuff over time. That's why my mind's working on what we discussed already. So, I don't like nursing homes. I have a friend, Mr. Ford, we'll call him. And sometimes I feel like people like to be waited on. They don't have to cook, they don't have to clean. They feed you, you shit, shower, shave, and you watch TV all day. Not for me. I'm going to watch TV all day. I want to get up and make my own food in my house and do what I'm going to do if I'm going to stay home. Yeah. I got in there. Nursing homes are not a place anybody wants to be. Smell like crap the whole way through. People don't want to work, 90% of them, not all of them. They don't pay them right, all this other stuff. So I got in there, and my first desire was, what, I need to do what I got to do. I said, how do I get out of here? It was maybe a month in. I was still finding a way to get high. And I think I was till 2014, going on 15, New Year's Eve. I went out, I smoked some PCP. Here's a story for you. I was on the red line on Howard going, and I ended up rolling from in front of my building at the Beacon nursing home to, I guess, the bus went on the red line. I was so messed up I don't remember. I ended up in the morning on Howard and Western with my pants down to here. I must have fell out of my chair laying on the ground on Howard and Western at the L stop.
Yeah.
Somebody helped put me up. I ended up jumping on a train. I fell asleep, ended up on 95th Street. Pants were halfway up. Got off of there, still a little bit out of it, jumped on a bus, cruised through the hood. I was like, woke up, and I go, where the crap am I? And I was like, oh, no. Ended up back at the nursing home. They go, where you been? And I don't know. And at the time, I was dating Carmen. Carmen worked at the nursing home.
Really? Okay.
I wasn't really dating her, but we liked each other. And she came in the room, said they're you're on restriction, blah 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 blah. You can't go back out. And she had a pair of scissors, and she sort of accidentally slipped them, and they fell in my wheel. And when I rolled, it cut me. They thought I tried to kill myself. They're going to send me to a psych ward and all this other stuff. And I go, you know what? I've been figuring out how I'm going to get out of here. The only way I'm going to get out of here is if I get sober.
Yeah. So you're they let you out. So you can leave, you can get a job, you can work.
You can work as much as you can. You really can't do a lot because they want to take your money if you're making it, right? You can do certain things. But you can go out every day. They don't want you hanging around all day if you can go out. As long as you're able to be self-sufficient and get around, you can leave.
But they wouldn't discharge. So what is that criteria? Like, what do you need to be able to do to actually
get out? So for one, you have to have a place to stay. Two, you have to probably have a family member or a friend be able to be your like payee while they're transferring you out. You have to have a place to go for one, right? Family, somebody, and that if 90% of the people in the nursing homes can't get out because people put them there because they're older. They don't want to deal with any of their disability-related issues. And when you go to a nursing home, they take your whole Social Security check or all your money, and now you're stuck there. I got lucky. I was sober for a while. My friend Tim Bagley told me about the Covert Initiative. Covert Initiative was a lawsuit against the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois nursing home facilities that they were taking people's money and giving them no way to get out of nursing homes. The lawsuit funneled the money into whatever it was. Wherever they put the money was used to give us a few $1,000s, help find us subsidized apartments, and get you back on your feet and get out as long as you're able to maintain and take care of yourself. That had to be done through the doctors. Okay, that had to be done through your social work and everybody else. And
so you get approved, and then but still have to have the means to leave. When did you decide I need to get out of here?
I was thinking that since I got in there, but I was still using. But that New Year's Eve was the day I said I'm done. I was laying on the tracks with my pants down to here.
At least somebody put you back in the chair.
Could have been in trouble, right? If I was, you never know.
Yeah, that's scary. So then that's the goal, then, right? So how long did it take?
Just said that on go ahead.
Yeah. So then that's your goal, right? So is to leave, to get back out into the world, be self-sufficient. How long did that take?
So I ended up in a nursing home in 2014. I didn't get out till 2013. I was on across from 26th Street first from the jail. Then I went up north because I figured I wanted to get away from that neighborhood. I really don't want to be across from the jail. Went up north. I went into treatment there, across the street. Messed that up. Kicked me out of that nursing home and up in the Beacon. The Beacon is where I decided this is where I needed. After the third nursing home, I keep messing around. I was like, I need to get out of here. I need to find a place. And I was like, the only way I'm going to do that is when Timmy told me about that. I was like, I got to be sober because they won't let you out. They won't let you out. They're going to be like, nope, you're still messing around. You're on lockdown. So it took me 4 years. Oh. I think it would have been 2, but there's wheelchair accessible apartments.
Those
are hard to find.
Yeah, and they're expensive they're not subsidized.
Yeah. But these were subsidized. So and I didn't want to move to the southeast side. It's not for me. I don't want to move back to the south side. I don't want to move to the west side. I was looking somewhere north. And those apartments, either you have to go through the alley to get into your building to get in the elevator. I'm like, no. And then somebody came in to Access Living because they were my case handler. And the girl was an intern. She walked in and she figured it out and she found this place where I live now. I was out a week later.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. That's awesome. So, and that's what you're saying about 2018 then.
Yep, 2018.
So then what are you doing? Where's that headed in? Because we're right around the corner, and then COVID hit.
So I was in Wrigley. Okay, I went to Wrigley. That's where I live, in Wrigley. I started going back a little bit to hand cycling with Shirley Ryan. I think we played softball. I think I was playing with the Sox that year. We won our Division III championship.
Yeah.
My first championship, I don't care, was a Division III. Still got the uniform in the hat.
Right, that's the tie that goes in the record book.
I don't care if it's 18th place or not, right? Then 19, we played played softball, did some, and then 20 came, COVID, right? End of 19, 20, right. COVID came. Right. And that's when I hit you up.
Yeah, no, that's one of my favorite stories because there was, I get a call from Angelo. It's just like, wow, and gyms are closed, everything's shut down, right? So I know it's like, I've seen you out at softball, and it's like, good. It's like, this is awesome. Like, I had no idea first, like, you were even in a nursing home. I was just like, Angelo disappears every couple of years, and like, we'll see him again. And it's just like, it was awesome to see you like doing great things, but you give me a call, and you're like, hey, what's going on? Like, what are you doing with that hand cycle? How often do you use it? I was like, fuck. Like, I was like, I wanted to be stingy, but I knew it was hanging up. You saw it today. It says hanging up in the garage. I knew it was in the garage, and I said, you know what? I'm gonna let Angelo, like, I'm gonna give that shit to it, like, because I want to stay healthy. I want to keep moving. Everything is closed. I can't do it, and I was like, I'm gonna let him borrow this hand cycle, and then to hear, like, I didn't know idea you're riding through the cemeteries on COVID.
So it saved my life. I'm telling you, because during COVID, it was either sit on the couch and eat and just stay in the house, or get out and ride a bike, because I don't want to push my wheelchair out at that time. Ride a bike wherever you can ride it, because you can ride it on the lakefront. Mm-hmm. Not for a while. So the cemetery is right behind my house. So I would take it, roll around a block, roll through there. I had a trainer. If I wanted to get on a trainer, I put it on a trainer. Yeah. It really helped me go from, I think I was at almost 250, and I went down in those 2 years. Well, after that, I went down. I was dropping weight, going to the gym. That's when the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab Fitness Center was open. Was going there, and I was on my way to, I think I was like about 185, 190. And I was healthiest than I've ever been. It was a good time, but then, the gym closed because of COVID. They kept it closed because they're still part of the hospital, and the hospital wants them to have overflow of their patients there, or they come in for outpatient rehab and all that stuff. So it's COVID protocol with the hospital still.
Yeah, wearing masks. I remember playing season of basketball with masks on and all that good stuff. Yeah. That was crazy. So, but then still, so through this though, this is when I say most of your accomplishments in sports come, and kind of this. What do you call this chapter in life now?
I don't know. It's not the final chapter yet. It's working towards it, but it was my clearest chapter, right? It was my clearest chapter. 40 plus years. It took me to 50 to get clear. Well, better late than never. Yeah. And I was my healthiest in 2020, 2021. 21 to 23, I was my healthiest, and then I got some injuries. But it was like, I got biking. Biking was always something I can do. And then I learned about Dare to Try. First and foremost, I always played basketball and softball with Shirley, right? So it was always something that I liked to do. I was never, and I'm going to be honest, never the most elite athlete, because I never gave myself a chance. In 96 and 97, I disappeared. I wonder how it would be if I was around for the 30 years with George and Angelo. Yeah. Would have been great. With you too, right? Would have been fun. But I always learned that I don't compare myself. Well, I can compare myself with you at second base, and I could be disappointed. However, I can compare, but I don't let that affect who I am. I only want to be better than who I am yesterday in all my events. But I think I most excel at individual sports, Mo. I love softball. Mm-hmm. Basketball's hard on my body nowadays, but I like to play once in a while. but like triathlon, scuba, biking. I'm even thinking about some fencing or curling because like the Olympics are coming. They're looking for people to do these things, and it's a little easier on your body.
I'm trying to recruit. Let's do a pickleball. We'll be the next Olympic pickleball team. Let's do it.
Do they really have an Olympic pickleball?
It's trending towards this. This is the new sport, and
They just have breakdancing. So
right. No, but so I like most traditional. When people think of adaptive sports, they think basketball, right? That's the adaptive sports. But I love to see these kind of things, and that's Chicago Adaptive Sports is trying to promote and encourage people to find their thing. And those things, I mean, it's awesome to hear about all the triathlons. And you're saying comparing yourself to me at second base, but that's one thing. Like I couldn't do a marathon, a triathlon, like all those things that you do. That when I try to say, oh man, let me try to compare myself to Angelo, it's like not the Daredevil.
It works, right?
Right.
I appreciate that.
Right. No, hell yeah. That's that's the grit, right? And I guess just even to talk about that, the grant letter that you got for, and it doesn't matter, what it was for equipment grant is the content of the letter, and you showed it to me and sent it to me, and I think that's awesome. Is the wording of it in that reward letter is it mentioned your grit. You got that reward because of grit. So how does it feel to finally have kind of the world recognize that in you?
And I think that parts of the world that I've been in my life, parts of them have recognized it. It's about time that I recognize it. And sometimes I feel like I still don't. I feel like I do what I do because I do it. And because I can. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I get my props from people, and it's hard. I don't know. It's something inside me sometimes it's hard to accept because I'm like, I feel like I'm just doing what I need to do for myself.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be this person. I want to be the person that I should have been my whole time, I think, in my head, right? I was who I was, but I that's where I would have changed things. It would have been different if I could change things.
Mm-hmm. So I want to argue a little bit on the fact that you wouldn't be the person you are today without going through all that shit. Right? So that shaped you. All of those terrible stories, all the regrettable things, all the things that we'd rather not think about are actually the things that gave us the lessons that gave us, right? That adversity is turning into the grit. That forge is life, So you're here because of all that. So that's right now. So it's today, it's deciding what to do today. And don't sell that short, because a lot of people wake up every day and decide to make no progress in life, And
I don't sell it short. I don't. Again, when I think in my head, I think like, I'm just doing what I need to do, Right. But I do hope that what I do helps other people, And I don't know if I'm selling myself short. It could be. I'm still that person that trying to figure life out, right? Because it's never going to end up. I'm never going to be perfect, and I don't want to be perfect. I sometimes like to be the least smart person in the room, because if I'm just try to be the smartest person in the room all the time, then I don't have nothing to learn.
Right.
It's where scuba diving comes in. That's where I joined the board of a housing rights, Voice of the People. Those people in that group, all they do is housing for less fortunate. And I'm like, dude, and they're listen to them talk. I'm like, wow, you guys are, this is something that they're. But I find out my passion isn't there as much as theirs. My passion is more where we're at.
Yeah.
Right. More of what you and me been talking around for a while, and Ken and everybody, all that stuff. Right. And so I'm gearing towards that.
And that's so the Dream Center, to talk about that, the facility and what I've really found. So we had kind of a team dinner, last night where Gus, Costa Z, say hi, what's up, Gus? So he invited us out, and he loves to do that kind of every year. He's like, come out, we do a scrimmage game, and then he likes to feed us, and just like, coming together and just talking and being able to, break bread with the guys is amazing. And then to talk to Larry, we spent some time yesterday talking to Larry about, what he's done, his work. And I think it's amazing to hear like all these avenues, we're all driving towards the same mission, this ultimate goal.
The Community Adaptive Sports Fitness Training Community Center, Chicago Adaptive Sports Fitness Training Community Center. It's a long name for it, but it's a beautiful name for it. Something after Shirley Ryan closed their gym doors to us due to reasons. I lost a lot of muscle. I was in more pain because I can't really sit in a gym and use a lot of their equipment. The equipment that they use where you move the benches out of the way and stuff like that, that was perfect. And I was satisfied with that. But it's a good push because I think as a community, we have one of the biggest adaptive sports communities in the U.S. I would think. Right. I think there's San Antonio and stuff like that who has pretty big ones.
Yeah. But we have multiple teams, 2, 3, 4 teams of one, 4 basketball teams, 3 programs.
But like even just Shirley Ryan Sports and Adaptive Fitness, and then you had Adaptive Ventures out. You have Dare to Try. You have Dive Hard. You have Keats out in Southside. So there's more than that scattered around. We need a hub. We need a training facility. If we got some sports teams and we really want to compete nationally, maybe Olympically, a training center for athletes. But then, you have other groups. You have people who just are at home that are seniors that used to come over to Shirley Ryan that I used to watch 70, 50, 60 plus that quads that can't get out and play a lot of sports, but they want to go out, they want to work out a little bit, and they want to socialize. Right. So community center, right? I think those are my 2 aspects that I look at, but you want a pool in there, you want basketball courts. You were talking about Lakeshore, were you talking about? Were you saying? Or the other one? Or were you just...
360, was it?
No, the Ability 360 is one, but you said you were just at one.
Oh, in Turnstone. Yeah, in Fort Wayne.
So you got Lakeshore, you got Turnstone, you have Ability 360. I'm sure there's more, but then even the smaller one that I've been to, Mary Free Bed.
Yeah, right.
It's beautiful. It's
big,
small.
YMCA. But that
YMCA, it's got a pool. Everything's adapted. They got a bed in the bathroom, so if you need to change, you get on the bed, it folds up. Yeah. It's something, even a small building like that, it housed a lot of information. And basement got stuff for different sports. And then swimming, like Dare to Try. You got Scuba can come and show people how to do it. People can see more of what we're offering in Chicago than just basketball software, bocce, and stuff like that. Exactly. Because what Shirley Ryan has is great because they have so much stuff. But then there's all these other specialty things that people can come by together, and we're communities getting stronger.
Right. Right.
We're sort of, in my eyes, we're sort of scattered in the power because we're all absorbing the same funding sometimes. So it's hard to want to combine it because you're competing for that same funds.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think so this vision, to go into maybe a little bit of what we've been talking about is pooling funds. Like you said, there's, a bunch of incredible organizations in the Chicagoland area that can all utilize the space. I mean, we, even our small group, Chicago Adaptive Sports, our mailing list is a couple hundred people of athletes in the Chicagoland area. Like, that's a lot of people. You're talking about a couple hundred disabled folks that, and as great as all those facilities are all around the world, like, why can't Chicago have one to compete? Why can't we have an Olympic training center? Why can't they come? We have this great community, all the people here and the funding to do it. I think it's focusing though. Everybody, instead of having, every foundation or association, create their own. Like, let's be smart about it. Let's pull it together because,
I agree.
they've worked. We've seen, whatever, the Mary Free Bed partnered with the YMCA. So there is the open community. Anybody can go, but they make sure that when the wheelchair basketball team needs a time and, just randomly, maybe Thursday night works best for that team, well, then they get priority, So that's the things that's all we're looking for. We want the community center for everybody, but we just want to make sure that the equipment can also be utilized for us because that is specialized equipment and we can't put that in every gym or every facility. And I think the Park District knows that. So hopefully it was just really, it made me really hopeful on the discussions that are being, going on right now. The
discussion last night was great. Discussion last night. So I think people are attacking it differently, but together. But no, their aim is the same. Their avenue is different. Okay, you have Larry, you have Karen from Access Living, you have Derek from Shirley Ride. Okay, those are the three in Chicago Adaptive Sports, and me. But everybody's coming at a different avenue. I see Karen and Larry starting to talk more, which is great. It's been on the back burner so long. It's like we need to start taking steps. And the most important part is the Olympics are coming, 24 and 28, right? Right? No, 28 and 32. 28 is the Olympics in LA, and 32 is the Olympics in Utah, at least the winter ones. So you want to see what's going to be left for people with disabilities in athletics and adaptive athletics after Olympics are gone from you, because it's this first time in the United States for a while, right? So you want to build something now, try to get something going now, because people will see adaptive sports more in the spotlight with the Olympics now too. Right. So what can we have when that's gone? Not what can we do to support the Olympics. They're both hand in hand, but if the Olympics go and we don't have nothing to show for it for the communities in the United States or around the world, wherever, I'm thinking Chicago though, then it's the point is
right.
no.
Right. Well, yeah. So the Olympics are coming. There needs to be facilities either retrofitted or created for that to have those games. So it makes perfect sense to use that funding and then think long term, because certain countries the whole Olympic Village just dies afterwards and they don't do anything with it. So, but with the proper planning, then it turns into those community centers. And just because games are in Utah or in LA doesn't mean that some of the events can't happen in Chicago, because we've traveled, further than that for specific events already. So it's not unprecedented. So I think we get whatever we can out of the willingness.
There's a lot of push.
Yeah,
There's a lot of push.
I know Larry's talking to Senator Tammy Duckworth. She's been a great advocate for disabled sports and veterans, and she's very interested, and she's I think looking for a solid plan. Yeah. She's like, let's get the ball rolling, and she so we have a lot of people willing to jump on the snowball once we kind of get it rolling. So
you guys, Chicago Adaptive Sports sent me to Utah last year. Yeah. So you sent me to Utah last year. I made, because of my desire in my heart is to get Adaptive Sports Fitness Center, community center going. And I learned a lot. I started my Facebook page, and then life just happened. A lot of shit, injuries, and my mom, and blah, 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 things just... So my goal this year was to read your document that you created about the Chicago Fitness Centers and Fitness Center, right, and go through all my documents and make some kind of sheet, think about it. And I wanted to do like Access Living, ask Karen Tamley if we can get a focus group of just everyday people talking about it. Right. Then you have people behind it, and not just people that are up in the upper echelon. The community is the people who are going to push and get people to move. So
Right. No, and that's using all those voices. I know there was a reporter from Channel 7. She's been following some of the stories, and they're doing a long-term, series on what happens to people after we know Chicago is violent. We know people get shot, but they're doing stories and follow-up on what happens after. How's life for a person from Chicago after they get shot? And they found our team, and they're like, wow, we're really interested on doing, and we're still in the works of it, but to this point it's been focused on one person, but they're thinking maybe there's a couple stories in the team that they can highlight into a full episode. So that's what I'm talking about, is those things are the ball is rolling. If you do a Google search of yourself, Angelo Perez, like, you've been interviewed, you have articles written about you, you're doing things like you were talking about being on the board, voice of the people, and doing that. And I kind of want to go into that. Is why is that important for you now? What are you trying to do? Why are you giving back, to this community?
I think in my aspect, in my little pea brain, just kidding, in my head, I think of that I'm not working. I've always wanted, I've in my life, I really haven't worked much. I worked for cash as a kid. Worked with my mom in restaurants and hot dog stands and stuff that we did. I got injured. I was on the street, so I didn't work, and I got injured. I had a job for a little bit afterwards with George. We had jobs working in the call center, blah, blah, blah. I moved on. I went to school. I had that job a little bit at college. And then I lost everything, went to nursing home, and I came out, and I couldn't work. So, I felt like I can't work because sometimes I get really during the day, and I don't want to do nothing for a day or two. And it's pain and all this other stuff. So I decided that my giving back for all the stuff that I get, be it my housing, Social Security, everything, is that I will help other people, be it through sports, like with Dare to Try. I'm coaching with them now. I volunteered with them for a long time. With Shirley Ryan, if I'm going to talk to some of the kids, or DeAndre, or whoever we talk to, right? Yeah. Whatever's going on. And now with Voice of the People, I was having issue with my house one day, and the lady's like, she interacted with management, and she helped me out, and then they're like, well, they asked me about myself. I talked to them like, would you like to join our tenant board? And I'm like, sure. And I really, really like learning about what they're doing, because I know about low-income housing, affordable housing from my side, tenant side. But then you look behind and everything they have to do to make this work, and for it to be funded, and for you to be on your voucher or whatever you're doing. And I feel like I'm not entitled to it, but I sort of am through what happened. The government says I am.
Yeah, right.
Not me. But, if I didn't have it, I'd be living in a nursing home. Or I would have to, no, I probably wouldn't be. I'd probably have to go find a job and have to wake up, even though I feel like crap in the morning, and go to work, right?
Right.
I decided when I got out of nursing home not to go to work and enjoy my life. I was 50-something years old. I can live humbly because I did it for many years. And I said, what I will do is I will give back.
Yeah.
And
it's not that you're not busy. It's not that you're at home being lazy, because you're probably busier than everyone that I know around.
Right. But the giving of myself, I wanted to do right. I wanted to do social work. So my social work, helping others, right? I found myself in the past couple of years drawing back on doing a lot for other people because of the pain and stuff that I was going through, shoulder injuries and all this other stuff. But I feel better. I've been going to therapy. I feel like this summer's going to be a pretty good summer. I have a couple wounds that healed from my feet. I can get back into swimming. I can get back in. I was asked by Dare to Try to coach 2 events with them. Even though, and the thing that gets me with a lot of our sports community, I don't know, I'm going off on a different tangent, but is that, again, I've told you that people see things inside of you, even at your lowest, at my lowest point. Yeah. This was my worst year ever, physically, that I felt in a while, and even that I got Dare to Try, and these guys have they've been a big part of my success out. Even though like Shirley Ryan has and Dan and everybody, the softball team and stuff, this individual sport was really inspiring to me. So being able to help them and give back to them, and they seen this year, they're like, even when I was not doing what I could be doing, they're like, come on, my 30% was my 100%, right? I did the Chicago Marathon when I felt like I couldn't do it. I did it slower, 15 minutes slower, but that's a big slower to me. But again, I'm not sure if I'm going to be healthy next year, right? I'm trying to be, but I signed up for next year's event. I'm like, but giving back is important. I mean, I've always thought when I hear our teams talk about, volunteering and do this, people should. We don't pay for much. I enjoy it, Juan. I do. I enjoy talking with the youth. Sometimes I'm going to tell you that when I'm talking, I could be. I see it with George sometimes when we say things that are way off the wall, and people look at you like, "What did you just say?" My coaches, when I'm talking to a kid, I was at Dare to Try's camp this summer, and the little kid was with me, a little kid from the inner city, and one of the directors or creators of Dare to Try, she's like, "Oh, you look like you're very patient over there." And I go to the kid, I go, "I guess you don't see what I see." And she just went like, but the kid's been with me all day long. He gave me the worst of himself. Every time he was riding his bike, he was trying to go off onto the curb and fall over. And he drove me and MJ crazy. And so I do that, and even Dan and them look sometimes and they go, because I'll say things, but it don't come from a bad place.
Right. We have no filter. That's just the guys that we are. That's the people that we are. We're from Chicago. Sometimes, I do it all the time. I have a job where I work with people out in Tampa and Florida, and sometimes they're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot he's from Chicago." I just don't mind him, And it's just we're authentic, and you can't be anything but authentic, and that's.
But your heart's in a good place. Even with Peter. Peter, right?
Yeah,
so let's talk about Peter for a minute, if you don't mind me.
I love
Peter
it.
Ruiz. So Peter is a good friend, and Cindy's always a good person. Cindy takes care of the team, she always wants to do everything for everybody. Peter's been having a rough time this year, but I remember when Peter, because he plays softball, came out of softball, he came from Special Olympics with George. Oh wait, George wasn't. He said he used to play with Special Olympics. Sorry, George. But anyway, he came over from Special Olympics, where he was like, when George was saying about, this is just, it's different. You're blowing on things. You're doing these different games, right? And he wanted to be part of a team. He came into softball and basketball. He tried his darndest. He was having a hard time because he felt to himself that things were never as, he's never going to be as good as everybody else. So he compares himself. That's just him. I got him into triathlon. As a person, like I'd seen him, I'm like, come on, try triathlon. The dude went from riding his bike and his racer around the parking lot once to doing 8Ks with me.
Yeah, nice.
And so that's what I mean about individual sports for certain people, right? Because if you're not able to keep up with team sports, sometimes I feel like I'm losing a little bit of that. Basketball was one. Maybe not softball. I could still play. But the individual sport, and then you're relying on yourself to be, you have no one to blame. Can't say, "Oh no, Juan did it, George did it." No, it's you. You're training or you're doing it, and just watching. And this is why, I give back. I give back to watch people like Peter excel in something that he never thought he was going to do. Just like me, I never thought I'd scuba dive or do Dare to Try.
Right.
But it's nice to watch. It's nice to watch. Watch some of our youth, the little girls, the young girls that are out there playing. Right. And I'm like, I watch them from 3 years ago to now, and even some that are so young that they just come out to hang out, and the mother takes them out, and they just want to belong to a community.
Yeah, no, it feels great. I know I have a story of this little kid, Jared, and he was in Indiana. He played for George's little team as one of the juniors a long time ago, right? And he played for about 4 or 5 years. and couldn't hit the rim, couldn't make a shot, couldn't hit the rim. Like, he was too small physically, small little kid, but he was relentless, and he would, you'd take your eye off of him and he'd steal the ball from you. And it literally made a career. And George would say he'd come to practice and he'd try to shoot and he'd get so frustrated, he'd start crying and but he was literally just like, just be patient. You're like 8 years old, and now I shit you not, right now he's on the USA team. Yeah, Jared is he's one of the best players in the world now, and that's what it was. If he wouldn't, if he wasn't at practice, fighting to make a shot for years, and that anger just fueled him, and now he's one of the best, so it's seeing those stories of somebody that self-doubt, and that's what I want to inspire, and that's why I think it feels so good, and hopefully we help and touch people that wouldn't have the opportunity to see or hear these stories.
You used to go out to Indiana with George?
No, that's just where I played against him. He would coach the Indiana team, and then the Chicago team started forming, and he would actually coach against us. Okay. And then that team kind of fell apart.
I went out there with him a couple of times. We used to hit Burger King every day on the way back. You remember that? Yeah,
George. Yeah, we like to go eat. That was the problem. That's why we're so slow as a team.
We're getting slower now. But watching the kids. I mean, and again, I heard you and George talking about the youth and people taking your places. Hopefully, eventually it's going to happen.
Yeah,
we don't see it happening, but these young kids watching them just getting better. Even the little ones slowly, like you said with him, just watching them and just thinking about how they're going to be 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. And just as long as they keep coming and doing what they're doing, and they have the support of Chicago Death Sports, Shirley, Ryan, the other some of the players, whoever's out there helping them.
Well, I mean, as a kid, when I went through it, that was the thing that was, I wouldn't have been able to go on the tournaments because my mom, single parent, she wouldn't have been able to afford traveling, paying for food, any of that stuff. But it was all taken care of, and oblivious to me at the time, but those were funders. Those were people donating. Those were people working to help keep that program going, seeing the value in it when, I had no idea. I was just going out, having fun, playing sports. So it is now seeing the other side of the coin, seeing George switch to now coaching and not playing basketball. And even myself, I mean, I'm 40, 42. I can probably still play for a really long time, but I think, I do it differently now, even now myself, where I want to make sure the players that I'm playing with are getting better every day so they don't need me. Because I fell into a trap where, I felt bad and I actually had to stop playing for a few years because I would show up to practice a couple times and I had little kids, really young kids, and I couldn't dedicate my time. But then the team was like, well, we need you. If you don't show up, it's just like, man, well, I can't give myself to you. So, you have to think of yourself first, take care of yourself first, and then when you can, that's when you can give back. So that's now, as my kids are now a little bit older, I'm approaching this kind of go at sports a little differently. I'd rather make my team better so they don't need me. So when I do say it's time to wrap it up, everyone is good enough that they're not going to miss.
Well, I got to thank. I listened to George's podcast this morning, so I can thank you and him. You guys discussed the year you guys left and played for LW.
Yeah.
I have to thank you for that. Not that I was, because I really wasn't, man. I didn't know what to think, right? You guys gave me a chance to play because I was on the bench. Because you guys there, I wasn't playing. That was my best year that I ever played softball. We won our Division II championship. I turned 90% of the plays in that thing. The balls were all hit to me. I got them all. Made double plays. Made the final out. My wheel fell off on the final out. It was my best year. I was glad you guys came back, but darn it if I lost my spot again.
But that was funny because we went over there and we got our asses kicked with Keith's team. We didn't even play because they were like, well, you guys are coming from the Cubs. You're not going to start. You got to sit on the bench. It's like, cool. I enjoyed it. I rode the bench most of the season, came in, but again, I couldn't be at every practice. I couldn't be at every tournament. That was that time too. And then when we did get in the game, We played like shit. We ended up losing the game anyway. They're like, okay, fine. Like, we need you. Come in, like, save the day, save the game. And we couldn't do it. We're like, we're just two older Latino guys. Like, it was, it's the sauce. It's the team, the camaraderie.
Yeah.
Sometimes, you never know who, I was playing a football game, and this is early on. And I don't like playing football; it's too violent, it hurts, and like all that kind of stuff. But when it was very early on, I remember playing local game, and Major was on the other team.
With Bill Downs?
With Bill Downs and all those guys out there. Keith was actually involved, and he was quarterback in that game. And Major was on his team, and Keith was just not happy with Major. He's like, "Come on, but it's just whatever." And I was the quarterback on the other game. Because I was like, I didn't want to get hit, which was quarterback was the wrong position, whatever. But so Keith was frustrated with Major, and he says, no, let's trade up teams. Like, I don't even want. I was like, I'll take Major. Like, why not, right? It's like, hey, come on, Major, you play on my team. I was just like, I'd rather work with the personnel I like, whatever. I knew Major's, mindset, and it's just, as soon as he came over and they switched teams, Major had like 4 touchdowns. Like, I was like, Major, you just go, and I'm gonna throw the damn ball to you. And he kept catching them, and Keith was so pissed off. But it's just like, it was just fun to see that, like, on any given day, like, it doesn't matter. The personnel that you're with, like, the best team in the world can get beat by just guys having fun, and sometimes that's more important than the win, right?
And I think that was, I conflict with thoughts about different ways of doing things with a lot of different people in any of our sports.
Yeah,
but I listen because those are coaches, so I follow. We have our ideas, we talk to them, we discuss, we do this, we do that. But in all, it's having fun, like you said. Right. Having fun. If we can go out there and we're having fun, and losing's not fun, but you can lose if you're just trying your hardest and everybody's playing the game, and go away and say, okay, we did. If you start losing, and you're getting beat up, you can't give up.
Right.
And that's what, like we were talking about in life, right? You got beat up many times in life. And if you give up, you never know if you're going to win or not because you gave up.
Right. That you have 2 choices. You either give up or you put your head down and you try harder, right?
Yeah.
Those are your 2 choices in life.
And that's what I do in life. And I remember in that game specifically, I was like, come on, guys, we got this. We're down, but we're getting we were messing up, not getting our ass handed. And all of a sudden, I got out there, hit the ball, got on base. Next guy got on base. I was like, okay, we got this, and everybody started coming back. It's like, come on, guys. I think that we do a pretty good job now over the past couple of years, in which I see you guys too, of the community, our sports teams not getting on each other and working through adversity, which is a big growth for me and other people.
For everybody, right? 10 years ago, if when things started to hit the fan, right, we would get on each other. And I think we've all kind of grown and evolved a little bit where, we've learned. And that's great. It's great to see kind of people evolve. And because I think where we started, we're all kind of hotheads, right? We all, former gang members, or at least 80% of us former gang members, hot-headed. And now we're trying to do organized sports. Like, that was just tough. And everybody had to grow a little bit. So it's amazing to see that in life. And honestly, when I think about playing sports, the whole time since 98, I was shot when I was in 98. So, we're talking, 30 years plus now. What I take out of it, the most valuable lessons, and we don't get paid to play. We pay to play. If anything, it costs money for us to do these trips and all that. But it's not the wins. It's not the championships. Like it's everything. It's the relationship. It's the camaraderie. It's knowing the guys from everywhere, from New York and Columbus and Minnesota all the way to California. Having some of the guys, Jaime, kind of spread the sport. Like him, bringing softball out there, and I take that. I think that's more valuable is, spreading the word, doing this today, like trying to share our knowledge with people out there that, hopefully take this, see this, and it makes their life better.
You said something important there, something that like we all come from a past life, like street life or this or that. So a lot of our guys come from the inner city. Not everybody. We had a handful of guys that come from the suburbs, and their lives are maybe rough, but a lot of these guys have attitudes, right? We all have attitude coming out, especially if you're newly injured, because you still have that fresh mentality of what you were.
Right.
So I do appreciate Dan Ferrer in that sense, because I've heard him say before that, we got to learn how to deal. There's a lot of behaviors and attitudes he deals with. And a lot of stuff have happened. But he said, I can't turn them away generally because this is what they have. This is where the turning point can happen. This is where life can begin again for them, because adaptive sports have changed a lot of lives.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's we've had those conversations, and do we give so and so another chance and a third chance and a fourth chance, and that's a great point. I guess younger me, or maybe even in the moment, it's like, no, that's they made their bed, let them sleep in, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I see that point, man, and thanks for bringing that up, because I've always thought Dan was maybe a little bit too lenient, but I guess I know, now I understand a little bit more why he is willing to give people that
and I've heard him
chance.
say it that way. I've heard him say it that way. So I was like, and I don't always agree with it, right? I think sometimes enough is enough, but I remember me at that time. I remember in my addiction. Remember me as an ass, a person who just. It's about me. I don't care. But nowadays I guess if we can keep them there, maybe we can show them that it's about more than just ourselves. It's about a community and about possible change, And if we let them go, they go back to what they were doing.
Yeah.
Some of them do. Some of us still do what we do and come and play sports, but it's still an outlet that, may catch on, where your life changes more and more. And I don't fault them for it either, because, sometimes it's hard to let go.
Yeah. Those stories, I mean, just learning those stories. I mean, I had a similar story to yours, and you said, when in high school, when your injury, you thought, hey, I'm going to play basketball. I had the same thing. I was football for Kelvin Park High School, and ended up getting in a fight in a practice and got kicked off the team. And it was just like, and that was a turning point. I remember after that, after getting kicked off that team, I was like, okay, I stepped deeper into the gang life. I was like, okay, I don't have that sport anymore. What am I going to do? Let's go hang out. So that was a turning point. And so I get that. I don't want to have one moment, one hot-headed moment be a turning point for somebody, 100%. Especially in the chair. So thanks for that. That helped me I guess be a little more compassionate to the guys, right?
Yeah.
Right, for sure. No, that's amazing.
I had a conversation. I drove with Hong, because we went up to nationals together. Our conversation, it was cool. It was good. Learn a little more about him.
He's a good kid.
Little young. What'd you call him?
Hong? Oh, the mascot. I've heard that pisses him off. That motivates him though. He's going to
trying to get those two into college. They've been trying to help them him and Stefan. They were talking about going to college. They need to go away and go to college.
Yeah.
That's
and we've talked about we've I think figuring out life is so tough. Even the fact that they're playing sports, a year or two after being injured is amazing. It's great. I love to see that. But I think I've tried to touch on it too. It's like, so what do you do? What are you up to? What do you do during the day? And what do you ever think about college or that kind of thing? Maybe school or and honestly, people have to be ready. But I'm ready to kind of
They are. We were at me and Stefan went up to the Ability Expo.
Nice.
The Department of Rehab Services was there.
Nice.
You couldn't get hold of him on the phone. We walked him up to the county, and he talked to the lady, and eventually they got paperwork done.
Wow.
Talked about schools, and I think Han has talked to somebody too. So hopefully they're thinking about going, and I'm really hoping they do, because I made the mistake when I first came out, and I went down to Edinburgh with Corey.
Yeah.
And then I learned of U of I, and I didn't go away to college. I stood here at college, and I would have loved to.
Yeah, I did. I did 2 years. It was amazing. I did decide to come back and finish school in Chicago.
Yeah.
So, but that experience was amazing. That's where a lot of my, that grit, that mental fortitude.
You told me about that. I heard about that one in your thing.
So it is. It's all about those tough stories, those tough, seeing them grow. Yeah, I that's always the scary,
I think that's what we. I think that's the. In my head, the idea of just helping the next generation.
Yeah, right.
That's where that social work comes, and that's where me as a child says, no one really seen me then. How do we see these people for where they're at, accept them for who they're and where they're at, and get them to where they need to go, or possibly where they want to go, even though, and I think that's it stems of what I want to do with Chicago Adaptive Sports,
Oh, that's beautiful. No, I really appreciate it. And that's, we need more people like you that kind of step up and want to give back, because it's a lot of work. It takes time. It's going out, like you said, going out, meeting up with Hung and taking them to the counter and making those connections. So it takes time, and it's tough. So it's hard work. So we appreciate everything that you're doing and putting into it, Tough year for you. You mentioned even physically, I know mentally, this is, it's draining. But without going too much into it, just, her journey, what would you want people to know about her? And maybe, the biggest lesson that she's given you.
My mom, person that I've always maybe not acknowledge as much as I did in the past 8 years. 15 when she had her first child, 19 when she had her fourth. So she had 4 kids by the age of 19. She struggled. She had her mother. She struggled with us, with our attitudes, with our fighting and whatever we did. But I never really knew how much she was there, right? Never knew how much. I knew she supported us. Remember when she beat up somebody when they stole my brother's bike, made sure they gave it back to him when she was a kid. How she was always doing things for me, like I told you about the apartments and finding this and finding that. Yeah. Recently, my nephew said that she walked in, said her 70-year-old self into his place of work in Wilmette and told the boss he ain't here to wash dishes. He's here to. You're supposed to pay him, and she hasn't paid him, and you're supposed to give him his money. And so she's always been that person. Yeah. But for me, she's always been in the background. I didn't recently when I looked at the pictures. No, I didn't remember. Maybe because I was high a lot, right? That she was always there. So I looked at all our pictures, my graduation, some of my sporting events with Kurt back in the early 90s, right? And all throughout that, I think we were at one of our banquets, and she was always there somewhere. Yeah. But she was the silent person in the room, right? She was always, let me be or whoever she's there with, let them be the center of attention, and I'll just be there to support you. She was always supporting me. She found me at my apartment. She wanted me to excel. It was never Angelo's fault. That was one of the downfalls of my mom. He didn't, not my son. Yeah, okay. It's everybody else's fault. But then she learned later on in life it was Angelo's fault.
Maybe a few of them.
It was Angelo's fault. But she still didn't want to believe it. But she was a hardcore mama. She took us places. I thought we were at the White House. We were at the Baha'i Temple up north in Chicago. I thought it was the White House as a kid, looking at the pictures. She's always supported all of us, always wanted the best for us, no matter how she said or did it. It was never always perfect. We learned that our parents aren't perfect. Right. But no one is. I mean, no one has a book to teach their kids what to do and how to do it and how to raise them.
I mean, 19 years old with 4 kids. You know, she's lived through it. That's impressive.
Yeah, as a kid,
man.
right?
That's
Child raising children.
Yeah.
And
so go into her memorial, and I just wanted to mention, you know, and hearing the stories. I mean, amazing from all your family members, from, you know, your siblings, all the way down to your niece and nephews, like their story, like the amount of people that she's impacted, and they're able to, you know, just be that spirit. It sounds like she was the same fan for 50 people, you know, like that is an amazing accomplishment.
And I've talked to people since then in her building that we didn't think she talked to people in her building. Oh, Jackie passed. Oh my God, she was so nice. We used to talk. Like, my mom says she never talked to anybody in the building. She had lots of friends everywhere. She used to walk her dog through the neighborhood. People were like, "Your mom," and people were crying. I'm like, well, she touched a lot of people. Yeah. I miss her. I made a little memorial in my house up on I put all my Graham's china and her china on top of my cabinet. And on one I have candles, I have some angels, and I have her picture up there. So, you know, I was underwater in Cozumel, scuba diving, and I was talking to her under the water, saying, "Are you down here with me?" And I talk to her all the time, and sometimes I find myself sitting there to go call her. I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah. All right. And it's okay, but I mean, but it's still, someone said, if you grieve as hard as you're grieving, which I do, and my grieving is sharing videos or stuff that I feel, because I'm not going to talk a lot about it, right? I do talk, but not a lot. And she just was just my mom. It's hard, but I think what sucks most about it is that I know over time it'll get easier. It'll get easier. And it won't go away, but it'll get easier. And I don't want it to get easier. I want to remember the way I remember her. But I know that that's not what she wants me to do. She don't want me to be. If it was up to me, and I feel the way I feel sometimes, then I'd probably lock myself in the house, right? But listening and just talking to her in my own right, and just know that I need to continue doing what I'm doing. Yeah,
I mean, that's what it seemed like. She loved being a witness to your life.
She loved you guys, dude. Yeah. She would come. I didn't even know it. Even when she was sick the last couple of years, she came out to one of our games, and she was just like, she had to cover herself up because the sun was bad, and she just hung out with us. And George, like, last night. Okay, I'm sorry, I got to skip over this for a minute. But George last night, like, he's talking to Gus's mom. And Gus's mom is carrying on with him in English. They're running conversation. My mom used to do the same thing. George could talk to anybody, right? And my mom loved it too. So she would talk with him. And it's just, she loved the guys. Angelo Perez. I don't think my mom knew you very well either, but everybody, you know?
Yeah. I mean, just think of that. I mean, so for us to be, you know, what we say, maybe we're middle-aged, I don't know, you know, and we have so much perspective from, you know, our 20-year-olds. Like, that's why I love talking to anyone that's over 60, 70, 80, like those, they are just a wealth of knowledge and perspective. And like, you know, I cherish every sentence that comes out of their mouth. So that I would sit there too and, you know, just have these conversations, because it's worth it. Passing on that knowledge is, you know, and honoring that with continuing to do what, you know, they supported you with. It's amazing. You know, I sat in, when I was 14 years old, I was at Schwab, newly injured. They had ran out of beds in the kids' whatever wing. So there was a mixed wing. So I was actually across the hallway he was 90 years old. He was in the Battle of Normandy, you know, and I sat with him for hours every day, and he would tell stories about just like he was on the beach, and he's like, everybody that was in the boat with me got shot. He got shot, but he just kept going, and like those stories is like, and now, you know, that's 30 years ago. Like there can't be anyone still alive that was on those beaches in Normandy. No. So like I had that firsthand, you know, knowledge, and I was able to, you know, sit with him and you know, that's those are the stories that need to get, shared because, 20 years ago, nobody had the ability to do this, right? 100 years ago, people had amazing stories that were just all lost, right? I want to make sure my story, your story, the next person's story that we tell is captured for your family for 100 years from now. Like, this will still be available to the world. And I think that's what's, most important. And, I think...
I think you talked about grit earlier. And I think that's where I got my grit from. Watching her grind and make things happen out of nothing and everything. So I think that's it. I think that's where I get it from. I shouldn't even think that's where I get it from. Yeah. Watching her struggle or just push through everything to get to the next stop. And it's like you never gave up.
Right.
Like, and if you never give up, you never lose, because if you keep pushing, there's always a next obstacle, but you're always going to get over it. I mean, we've and I think I share with people is that we've may encounter these adversities, and you're like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do that. This may happen. This may happen. But if you think about it, every adversity that you, me, and everybody alive has encountered up until today, we overcame them, or else we wouldn't be here.
Right.
So we're 100%. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe it wasn't easy, but we got past them.
Right.
And so your track record of being able to get over your next adversity is pretty good, as long as you push through, you don't give up.
Yeah. Pushing hard, man. Putting the head down, taking that next push, right? That's what it's all about.
I got that from your fight and the story of yours with you at U of I.
Oh, yeah.
That was a hell of a story.
I love that story. And then this kid, too, now, Steve Serio is an Olympian. He's, gold medals. There's a whole wall of, this. So that's, we share in that. Those stories are amazing, Yeah. I think... I want to give you an open floor. I want to go and we've covered highs, we covered lows, we covered the dream, before we wrap up, and then we're going to go into the nomination too. Like, is there anything we missed, anything you want to say to community, to friends, make amends, anything, or somebody just starting their journey?
I guess we all have who we were then and who we are over our life. I think we evolve as life goes on. Evolution never stops, right? And I think the evolution of me as a child ground me into attitude to where I was but you can change. You can change anything as long as you put the work into it, because we were born a blank slate. You can change to be who you want to be. You have to put the work in. You have to believe in yourself, but you do. I mean, it builds the adversity that we run through. It will build emotional strength, physical strength, and just endurance for your life. And life doesn't stop unless you stop. I mean, there's many times where I just wanted to say, it's enough. But the next day came. I've never had a feeling of saying, it's time to end it, and I do know that people get depressed and anxiety and stuff where they do end their life, and I feel for that. I just never been to that point. I could understand it, but I don't know what it feels like, right. Because I know that I have to keep going, and I think that's what people need to do. You're just barely, you're at that finish line. You just have to trudge through that misery or that pain or whatever it is to get to that finish line, and you can do it.
You mentioned it takes 30 days to break a habit. The other side of that coin too, it takes the same amount of time to create a habit, to build a habit. Yeah. If you conscience, I say I want to do this, or I want to set a goal, do it for 30 days. Right, that's the hardest part. Right, we get past that. You make everything happen, man. One step at a time. So that's great.
Yeah, but I think that we have, again, I want to clarify this for our idea of a community center. We have Dare to Try, Dive Heart, Shirley Ryan Ability Lab, which has encompasses a lot of our sports here in Chicago. We have Keith up there. We have but there's another facility up north, Glass.
Right, all the SRAs, the special rec facilities. There's like 8 of them in the Chicagoland area.
We have all this, and our community. If it wasn't for adaptive sports, again, I got out the first time when I got paralyzed and I met Greg. I got into it. It made me feel so much better. Second time, I tried to float back into it. Second time when I got a nursing home, this time, it sort of gave me ground again, right? It gave me a ground to get my footing and to get in and have a community. Because if we don't have a community, if you don't become part of the community and you feel isolated, your life can be chaotic, especially if you don't have a strong family unit. I felt like I didn't. Mm-hmm. But even if you do, because the family doesn't know what to do with you as a disabled person, because this is their first time understanding it too. Yeah. So Chicago Adaptive Sports and the rest of our organizations in Chicago are a family, like you said. Our family, a community to help not only the athlete, but how many families have I seen transform into idea when they come out? The kids are there, and now their families are part of it. Now, like you said, Ione, I think, is her, the one that was on. Ione's dad is coaching. Yeah. We call her Fred.
Fred, okay.
So Ione was at Dare to Try camp. I think that's who it is, because she has a twin sister, right?
Yeah, it was Ione.
So Ione was at Dare to Try camp. Ione, if you're listening to this, how you doing? So she was sort of to herself, and everybody would ask her what her name is, and she didn't want to talk to no one. She said, Fred. So everybody at Dare to Try camp called her Fred. I didn't learn her name till next year.
Nice.
But I was like, Fred. She goes, and her dad, I think her dad told me, but she's like, it's Ione. Just watching families open up when they come to a community. I watch these kids. Again, when I come out to softball, the families are there. Kids are having fun. Kids are opening up. When I go to Dare to Try camps, these kids come in and they don't really want to be there because the parents sent them there, right? Mm. Some of them. And by the end of camp, they're all blossomed up and ready to come back next year. Yeah. So that's my idea of Chicago Adaptive Sports. That's my idea of our community, what it does, and why having a facility for not only sports training, so we can have better teams and Olympians, but for the community and their families.
Yeah. More sports, different sports. Those pickleball. I keep mentioning pickleball, but you can play just like with tennis. Able-bodied people can play with people in chairs, so families can play together. We have a little pop-up, pickleball net, so we can play. I can play with the kids. We got some pickleball brackets over there. But, that is, so even in a big family, people have big families, tight-knit families, but when somebody's introduced to disability, that person is now different. So you can find yourself in a big family, but still feel isolated. Yeah. I'm still different than all of my brothers and sisters or cousins or anybody. So without this community to kind of open it up and say, I had one or two examples when I was a teenager, and I was told the stories. I think George is one of them. And they're like, George has a job and he has a wife. And it's like, your life's not over. Like, kids need to hear that, especially 14-year-old. I needed to hear your life isn't over. And I think at the time was one of the guys, he was a Chicago area guy too. I don't know if you ever met Will Waller.
Yeah,
Will. Now he's gone out. He went to U of I. Now he's
NBA, WBA.
Right now he's the commissioner of the NWBA. But at life, he was an example for me because he was fresh out of college. I think his first job. The next time that we saw Will Waller after he graduated from U of I, he rolled up on it was like an Escalade or a Navigator. It was one of the biggest trucks that we ever see. And it was just like, wow. He had a job. He had a real job making good money, and he was driving an Escalade. It was like, that was the example that people like myself, like I needed to see that because so that's why we do it. That's.
No, I hear you on that. Remember Will when he just left to college? Yeah, I remember when he was a little skinny.
He was the little skinny guy. See, you got the other side of the coin, the little skinny kid.
I watched him From afar. I watch him from afar because he was on social media a lot, so I seen everything he was doing on social media.
Yeah, that was awesome. He was, I was younger than him. So when I was as like a 16-year-old going to college basketball camps, he was at college. He was doing the things, and and learning. He was from Chicago. He grew up. It was a couple blocks from where I grew up, and it was like seeing that example.
Maybe I could do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what I needed. And maybe without him, without that example, who knows if I would have even tried, It's powerful, So for our tradition, started by George, he nominated you to be here today to tell your amazing story. I'd like to know, we're all got edge of our seat, who do you nominate to be our next guest with Chicago Grit, and then why?
Let's see if you can guess. He's the most loved and most hated person in wheelchair softball and basketball.
That doesn't narrow down much, but
Larry Labiak.
Beautiful.
And Larry Labiak, the reason why, I think you asked maybe for a little reason why.
Yeah.
The reason why is, again, he was there prior, and George has been there forever, right? So he was there prior. Him, Bob Trotter, all the pacemakers, and whoever else was with the Chicago. Some of the guys who with the Bulls were part of Chicago, I guess. I heard George mention their names. Yeah. And just watching him over the years, player, ref, with the mayor's office, trying to get things done, organizing the field and stuff, helping with all that stuff. And just everything he does is disability related. Mm-hmm. That's his life. And that's in Chicago disability related, right? So when you're thinking of that and you're thinking of our sports, he's been around since Fred and Bam Bam. Yeah.
He was the first guy in a chair. I remember him reffing a game as a junior, and I show up and actually Ivory, because I known Ivory since high school. Ivory said, "Hey, there's this guy. Like, I'll get you a summer job." And that was his first time. He's like, "We're going to work during the summer." It was Larry that hired us. He worked for the mayor's office for people with disabilities, and he started this kids program, disabled youth peer initiative, so disabled youth, DYPDI, and he hired us and he paid us that summer and to go around and experience life and the city. So I love it. I love the nomination. He's opened doors from being one of the first disabled students to go down to U of I and make them allow him to be a student. He broke barriers and continues to do so.
Yes.
With the Park District, the beaches. So that's an amazing nomination.
I think, yeah. And again, I as a friend, as a person, and as a person in Chicago disability, I respect him. I joke with him. Me and him have jokes. He calls me. He has a special word for Perez. He sounds like fat ass, but it's in Spanish it's Perez. So to him, it came out that way a few times. I was like, "What'd you call me?" But I do respect him, and I do make fun all the time. So the jokes I talk about, the most loved and hated, because I watched him play softball, and as a catcher, people, hey, and he'll argue because he's so smart at the rules and regulations that he argues with the refs back in the day, and they're like. So in just everything he does. I mean, everything he does. So I just can't wait. I think that's going to be a knowledgeable conversation about the history of Chicago adaptive sports.
Yeah.
I mean, how it started prior to Shirley Ryan and with the pacemakers, and then when he was he's been around forever, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, no, that's amazing. We have some footage of him reffing at the tournament a couple of weeks ago, and we included me and Ken talked about him briefly, and we did. I mentioned it in that episode. I said Larry would be an amazing person to interview, and I can't wait because he's.
I'll be a fly on a wall on that one.
Yeah, I might have to buy some larger memory cards for that conversation. We need the expanded memory
I have
for
a little
that.
clock here with a timer on it.
I'm going to use this playlist, put some music on it, kind of talk him off a little bit. That was actually, so in our summer job, we used to know. So we were supposed to get out at 4:00, right? And we would always finish about 3:45. We would always come up with a good question for Larry. We come up with a good question about 3:45, ask it about 3:50. We get overtime. So we wait till the end of the day, ask Larry a good question, and he'd talk for about 45 minutes, and we'd all get special time and a half pay.
I love him. His wife was our first catcher when I came out, Christy. Not catcher, pitcher for the Cubs back in the day.
Right.
Yeah, her and Chris. I forgot.
Chris Villarreal.
Yeah. With his Raider stuff. So yeah,
I remember some interesting
weekends
discussions, some marital tribulations going on during game. Christy and Larry arguing on the mound, and everybody else on the team is like, we can't say shit to either of them. Like, we gotta let them handle that. But those were some fun times. So yeah, now I look forward to that. We're going to do some good research and dig up all the old.
I like it because it's going to bring I think it's going to bring a wealth of knowledge about everything, but also future center, facility, all that stuff. Because this is my deduction is this is Larry's baby.
Yeah.
It's always been something, even before Chicago Depth started talking about it, always something that he wanted to do.
That's what he mentioned. He mentioned something last night that made me know exactly what you're saying is true. He says, he goes, I want this before I die.
It's his legacy.
That's his legacy. Yeah. And Chicago's such a great city. We're number one. We're top at so many things. Why not be the top here? The disabled community and.
It's been a little uphill battle since COVID for this because funds have been tight all over.
Yeah, no. Anything else you want to touch on? I think
no. I just want to thank, Chicago Adaptive Sports, which is Elma, Ken, you, Ivory, and the rest of the guys that I don't know.
Yeah.
I did listen to you guys, but I do know that all these little things that help with, and they're not little, but they're to help with like. People getting to play sports through the Park District, helping me get to an event to learn more about helping you guys or helping this thing. Everything, just the idea of this community center coming from a nonprofit Chicago Adaptive Sports, right? Like this is what your drive is. The ultimate drive is to have a facility. And at the same time, it's an everyday thing of helping the community with whatever you can help them with, the support of them. That I thought it was great. I try to think what I can start, and I'm like, why try reinventing the wheel when I can help the wheel just go along?
Right. No, that's what we need. This is exactly that effort. Like nobody Ken, Alma, myself, we're all trying to give back, right? Yeah. No one's doing it selfishly. No one's trying to, maybe, get in the limelight or take a dollar from it. Like none of us refuse to take any money for anything that we do because it's all about giving back to the community, and that's what's more important. So we need, the people like you for everything you do, all the effort that you put into, giving back. That's why we do it. That's why we started it, to have someone that's run by the community. Because, when I was a kid, it was the higher ups at Shirley Ryan or the Park District, or there were people that didn't know the players making those decisions about our future. So, I think being in the room, being part of those conversations, it's a natural progression. I think it's good for all of us to kind of be in control, take control of our future.
And I'm going to be a remiss if I don't say thank you, George, for one. Because, again, sometimes it's hard for me to think of myself as my story is my story, right? I am not ashamed to tell it. But just think like if thank you. That, and thank you to Angelo Perez for supporting me through a lot of this stuff. Well, no one else knew what I was going through, because otherwise I would have felt a lot alone. So there's two people. I'm sure the community too, and you guys and everybody, but those two guys, right? I mean, after I heard what he said yesterday, I'm like, yeah, I heard it, but sometimes I just don't, again, I might warm up my best supporter and my worst critic,
Right. Well, that hindsight is 2020, but it's hard. This is, the sports analogy. As a player who's in the game, it's hard to step out and have that coach's perspective, So it's good. Maybe somebody needs to be able to help you step back and take a look, What have you done? What you've been through, what you've done. Yeah. It's an amazing story. I'm going to make sure this gets edited to highlight not only those triumphs, the highlights, the wins, but the truth, the reality.
Forget some of them crazy pictures you put in Georgia.
That
was cool. I really liked that little superhero.
That's George's creation. That's George's profile pic. That's his superhero.
That was great. Did you ever see him with his wrestling mask? Cubs wrestling mask.
Oh yeah.
We got that
his
from
luchador.
We got that from the Rib Fest on Broadway.
Nice.
Me and him were out there one year, and he's like, "Oh, he bought it," and he's never got rid of it. He's
still. Luckily, he's gotten past the nipple shirt phase, though.
Oh, we didn't talk about that.
Right, we have opportunity here because
nipple shirt.
Do you know the story of why though?
No.
No. So this guy, I don't know why he felt like he wanted to have his shirt off ever, because it's George, right? But I think he felt like the shade of his nipples were too light. So he crafted this idea to cut out 2 holes in his nipple shirt that he wore for a whole summer.
He wore it for more than a summer, I think, dude. He wore it for more than this, because I didn't play softball with you guys. He used to wear it when I was there.
Oh my God. So the idea behind this was so he can tan up his nipples. It's because they were too light skinned. So for years, and he wore this shirt.
George, you're special. We have some stories on you.
Angelo, thank you so much for coming. Your story isn't just about survival. It's about the relentless refusal to stay down. You from flipping a car, hitting rock bottom, climbing that mountain, only to fall back down and hit bottom multiple times, and yet you kept climbing. Earning a master's degree while fighting a drug war in your own head is no small feat. That level of difficulty is the definition of the unfair advantage. You took the hardest experiences life could give you, and you turned them into fuel. So thank you for showing us what that looks like. To our listeners, remember, grit isn't at the summit; it's in the climb. All right, so that's Chicago grit. Thank you again, Angelo, to everyone out there. We'll see you next time.
Run for your life, 'cause it might get hideous. Why so serious?